Hey everyone, it's me. How are you? You remember me. Sometimes I stream when life doesn't give it the way. Rob Noerr, Normal America Show. Great to see you all. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. It's a little... Sorry about streaming from work office again. Life has a way of keeping me from my home, so... I think in the entire, let's see where we're at here. In the entire month of April, I think I've slept in my home bed twice. So it's been one of those months. Work, but a lot of fun stuff too. So unfortunately, I won't be able to stream this Friday either, because, well, or maybe I will a little on mobile. I have a bachelor party to go to, so yeah, you remember me. Charming, handsome. Look at this. I voted today, and I could prove it, right? There's one, how do you know if someone voted? How do you know that someone's not bullshitting you? Does anyone know? Where do you go? Do you go to some website? How do you do it? Do you just have good intuition? Because you can't believe everyone, right? You can't believe what they're saying. I could prove to you that I voted, though. Yeah, they don't just hand those out. That's right. That's official right there. So, bam. The nice lady that worked the polls. That's right. Gave me that sticker. Used to be, I don't know if it still is, used to be able to get like discount on your sandwich at Subway if you had the sticker, man. The sticker is, it's official. No one can challenge it. That sticker's better than an ID, man. Like, if you see any illegal immigrants walking around with this, you know things are afoot. Yeah, the new clips. I'm glad you like them. I don't have one for noon yet tomorrow. Maybe I'll do a short clip myself tomorrow. But yeah, that Black Elk, who's editing for me, he's doing a phenomenal job. And I'm happy with the way those clips are coming out. Plan is to have at least one a day at noon. If there's going to be a second one, it'll be at 5 p.m. all times Eastern. And we'll be doing that every weekday. One at noon, one at 5. One at noon, one at 5. And then hopefully the algorithm starts to get a little more friendly to us once we do that for like 90 days in a row. So we're just going to keep plugging away. Thanks for retweeting the stuff about Australia. Both sides of politics going about Musk and one again free speech. Yeah, we'll talk a little about that. There's a lot to talk about here. So, give you a little idea of my schedule. Hopefully, I'll be able to stream tomorrow night. I'm going to be stuck late at work here. And that's always a problem. So, Wednesdays, normally I get off around 2 o'clock. Sometimes, though, I get caught here late. It's a tough sell to my wife to walk in the door after being gone 100 hours, 96 hours. Walk in the door and give my wife a hug and a kiss and see my son and say, okay, I gotta go upstairs and stream. Like immediately. That's always a tough sell. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. But I'll try my best. Maybe it'll be a little late. But the way it stands is with my work, because there's only one other person that works in the house with me. If I'm not working, they are, and vice versa. Sometimes you get like these trainings, like first aid trainings and things you have to take. And that situation's occurring tomorrow. So I just have no idea how long my coworker will be at this training, which means I have no idea what time he will get into work. So I just have no clue. But hopefully it's a reasonable hour and I get home and it won't affect this training. Thursday, so we'll try our best to stream tomorrow night. Thursday is debate. That'll be broadcast on my channels, but it's being hosted by Rampage Paul, I think's his name. It's going to be me, EOD, Jebtan, and Conor. I don't know. I'll be honest, it's one of those things, like, things get pitched to you. I mean, here's the thing. Within reason, I tried it when I'm doing a debate. Okay, let me tell you what my feelings are on these things. 95% of the time when I'm doing a debate, I'm acutely aware that it is through someone else's channel And I try to respect that. So, with very few exceptions, if I'm invited on a panel, I will try to keep my discussion, at least at first, within the realm of what the person that invited you on asks. So if they say, will you come on this panel and talk about flat earth? I'll say no, I don't really want to talk about that. But if I say yes, I'll talk about what they want. Rampage Jackson, I don't know is that his name? I don't know. I'll tell you. This one, I don't know what to think, because I thought that it was billed to me as it's going to be Trump supporters. Rampage Paul is the name of the person. It's going to be Trump supporters, and it's going to be Trump supporters that like. It's going to be Republicans that like Trump and Republicans that don't. And who would you vote for? So I thought it was going to be Jeb Tan and Conor, both of whom I think aren't going to vote for Trump. And that's fine. You reach out to those people with a general idea of what the topic will be, and then sometimes your topic becomes more specific. This is just a personal opinion of mine. I try to always, if I'm reaching out to people for a debate topic, I try to keep it like 1 or 2 sentences. Usually it's just like Trump versus Biden, or do you think the legal cases against Trump are legit? I'm just going to read to you what was sent to me. Here are the 2 questions for the 2-hour panel. Okay? Now remember, I thought this was just going to be if Trump people arguing with anti-Trump people that are Republicans. Here's question 1. Some of the greatest feats in American history have been accomplished by leaders who were able to unify in times of immense political division. As public support for American institutions plummets, and the gap widens between American voters and the politicians elected to represent them, who do you think is best suited to address divisive issues and act as a unifying figure in and after the 2024 election? I know who Rampage Jackson is. Seems a bit wordy to say who do you think can unify us best, but okay. Question 2. Trump is facing a combined 91 charges across 4 criminal trials. If Trump is successful in his bid for presidency, will this impact his ability to focus on national and international concerns? Further, should Trump be able to halt federal investigations, indictments against him, or pardon himself? So, should Trump be allowed to pardon himself? Will the cases against him if he wins? I mean, that's fine. We could talk about that. Yes, Trump should be able to pardon him. Yes, the cases against him will be used against him, and a bunch of other stuff with the FBI will be used as a tool to illegally investigate him like they have been for 9 years, even if he wins presidency. Okay. Will questions are different to me than should questions. I prefer should questions for these types of debate. Like, will Trump win? I could debate that, but I don't find it as interesting as should you vote for Trump? That to me is more interesting. I know the second question will be about corruption, and that's where I'll take it, of course, because our opponents will say, yeah, Trump is corrupt, and I'll say, no, he's not, or at least not in the ways he's being charged, and then that's what will happen. The first question, I almost reject the premise. Like, saying, like, unification in this country is important. It's like saying diversity is our strength. Yeah, whatever. It's word salad BS. I'm so over it. I'm so over it, particularly in right-wing circles. Oh, we need to talk about how to unify. What? Who's the best candidate for unifying? Well, I guess as Republicans, if we all vote for Joe Biden, then we'll be unified, right? And, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. Conor's good. I like Conor, despite a lot of people being pissed at him for the, working for the progressive PAC thing. I still like Conor. Conor's fine. Me and Conor can have a debate. And it's not like we're probably not going to fall into the semantics of exactly the way the question was worded. But some people do that shit. Some people do. Some people are like, well, the exact question says X, and you're not talking about the exact question. And it's like, okay. So that's why, like, when I read these 200-word questions, it's like, I hope it doesn't become that. I hope it's just like, hey, do you think Trump will be good for unifying, or should we want someone else? Think the legal troubles will follow Trump into his presidency if he wins? Should he be able to pardon himself? And that's it. 2 questions. You could have done it. Word economy could have been much better. But that's okay. Everyone has their own thought on how to do that stuff. So, it should be fun debate, though. Like I said, I'm not really going in there. We'll see. Maybe I'll have a shitty day Thursday and I'll be in a bad mood and I'll go in there yelling and screaming. I don't anticipate that. I'm trying to convince Jeb, in particular Conor, that they should vote for Trump. So we'll see. Yeah, it's on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see how it goes. Should be fun. EOD will be a fun partner. Maybe I'll just leave EOD talking. I'll go, yeah, the whole time. Then EOD be like, you know what? Trump's awesome, and whoever you people like suck ass. And I'll go, yeah. I think it'd be effective. Go and yelling. That's the aftershock advice. Like, I used to coach debate, so you would have ideas of like, okay, the team's gonna, your opponents will say this is your best argument, you're gonna want to say this judge likes this. Like, aftershock as a coach would be like, call them a piece of shit, they suck. You're too calm, scream. Diversity is our strength. We all need to unite. We all need to come together. Any more cliches? So there's a lot to talk about. I don't know. I'm scattershot. We'll see what we get to. I didn't really get to talk about the January 6th stuff I wanted to the last video, so maybe I'll get to that the last live stream. But there's other things to talk about. I suppose we'll start with this. Can you believe that Biden said Nazis are good people? Can you believe it? Joe Biden, the President of the United States, said Nazis are good people. I don't know how everyone in the country isn't up in arms about this. He said Nazis were good people. He did. I heard it with my own ears. He said Nazis are good people. I heard it with my own ears. I heard it. Nothing that you could ever say will convince me otherwise. It doesn't matter if you provide a transcript saying, can you show me in the transcript where he said Nazis are good people? That doesn't matter. I and millions of others heard it. You see, there's very fine people on both sides, and that's the equivalent to saying Nazis are good people. Same thing, right? Now, before we get too far into the sarcasm here, much like every time that the hyperbolic left and their sycophantic followers decide that they're going to intentionally smear people they don't like by saying if they have any sort of nuanced take whatsoever, it means they support the worst of any side of the movement. I understand that the truth is far more complicated than what individual statements would suggest. For example, you could take a swath of people at one protest at one university and say, these people look to be doing something really bad here. Like, let's say hypothetically, by the way, I haven't seen footage that shows this, but let's say hypothetically you say, oh, here is Yale, and here are supporters at Yale, and look, this camera footage is 5 minutes of them beating the crap out of some Jewish guy. And then if Biden's like asked, what do you think about anti-Semitic protesters? What do you think about some of these awful things? And he said, well, I think it's bad. I condemn that. But I also think that, what's happening on the other side is bad as well. Does that mean that Joe Biden's saying, oh, you could beat people, there's some good people there and some bad people? No, that's not what it means. He's saying, in general, the group of people that is upset on one side, they're good and bad people. And in general, the people on the other side, they're good and bad people. So if I could steel man what Joe Biden's saying, he's saying the following. Yeah, of course, there's some of these rhetoric that's going on these college campuses, these anti-Israel protests that we find reprehensible and we condemn. However, we also need to understand that there are behaviors that are occurring on the other side, particularly with a bunch of people dying perhaps in terrible ways that could be controlled better by the Israeli government, that also is raising temperatures and is worthy of criticism. Now, I know that. And certainly Biden supporters know that. They absolutely know that. But why should my standard be the standard that's used? Because that same standard says, when Trump looks at Charlottesville and says there are good and bad people on both sides, clearly I'm not talking about the racists, the Nazis, the white supremacists. I understand what he means is, oh, he's not saying Nazis are good people. He's saying some of the people that don't want the statues torn down are good people, and some are bad people. And some of the people that want the statues torn down are good people, and some are bad people. And that's eminently true. And I went into great detail for years as to what that statement was really about, if you pulled through the thin veneer, which was that we were lionizing everyone that showed up to Charlottesville against the Unite the Right rally. And those people shouldn't have been lionized. Most of what Charlottesville was shitty people on one side lining up for mutual combat with shitty people on the other side. There were people in both groups that weren't shitty people. But the media wants to paint this picture, because the establishment wants to paint this picture, that white supremacists are the worst people in the world and they're the biggest threat to this country, and Trump supporters are all white supremacists, and so they could use it for a political point. That's the entire idea. Demonize white people, demonize Trump voters, demonize the right. That's what their agenda is. So they overlook violence on the left and terrible actions on the left so that they could call out people on the right. That's exactly what but Trump said Nazis were good people hoax was about. This was a hoax that was shared so prominently that the now president Joe Biden claimed that's the reason he decided to run for office. Was the Trump saying Nazis were good people business. So my standard shouldn't matter. What's my standard matter? It's the same standard, by the way, that said, I understood after the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision that there's no right answer to what to do with unaccompanied minors that come to the border. Or even, I guess in that case, accompanied minors that come in illegally. I don't want to see them put in cages. I don't want to see them come to the border. But I also don't want them locked up with adults that we can't prove are their family. And I also understand that we can't just have an open border that anyone that comes here with a child is let through the border scot-free. I get that. So when it happened under Trump, I didn't say, this is a moral failing that is disqualifying that this is happening with Trump. And then turn around when Biden did it and say, this is a moral failing that's disqualifying for Biden. Wasn't my standard. I understand it's a difficult situation. I think it was worse, certainly worse under Biden. The reason it was worse was because more people came to the border because Biden and the Democrats virtue signaling on open borders and the rescinding of laws, etc. But why should my standard be the standard that applies? The reasonable standard. Why should that apply? That's not what the people in positions of power. It's not what Joe Biden. Why don't we use Joe Biden's standard when evaluating the words of Joe Biden? Joe Biden said, or heavily implied, that Trump said Nazis were good people, so much so that's the reason he decided to run for office. So, when there's accused of being anti-Semitic protests on college campuses, and Joe Biden's answer is, well, there's bad people on that side, but there's bad things on the other side as well. How is that any different? When's the mainstream media going to, this next meeting, shouting, oh my gosh, you're defending Nazis, you're defending anti-Semites, how dare you do that? Heck, when's Joe Biden going to have a press conference that the media could yell that way? Oh, it's different now. Now it's different. Now it's, well, be reasonable, Rob. This is what he was trying to say. Notice how this works. Joe Biden, from his official Twitter account, which I have no doubt that he doesn't manage, tweeted out, I believe today, that Trump said inject bleach hoax. Which Trump never said inject bleach. Never said it. And yet there's Biden saying he did it. Now the media was on it. They pushed that hoax as well. And yet, what was more damaging, that or Joe Biden claiming if you get the vaccine, then you can't catch or spread COVID? Which of those lies, which of those statements was more damaging? And yet, no one held Biden to task for his statement. In fact, when you talk to left-wingers, they're like, oh, well, what Biden was saying, when he said if you get the vaccine, you can't get COVID, clearly he didn't mean that. But Trump said drink bleach. No, he didn't. It's another example of the actual words that the left say. Democrats, the media, the establishment, they'll always interpret it in the way that is, all right, I don't want to say just the left, the establishment left. They'll interpret it in, well, let's make it the most charitable possible. Then the exact words Trump says, they say, no, we're not going to look at those exact words. We're going to interpret it in the worst way possible. So, just like I told you, I was on a website after Charlottesville where I had a left-winger say that once Trump made the statement that Nazis could be good people too, that meant that anyone that supported Trump was also a supporter of Nazis. And then they went on to talk about how violence would be justified against those supporters of Nazis, up to and including, I'll just say, a final solution to those Trump supporters because they are clearly Nazis. I wonder if we'll see that same vigor when it comes to Biden's statement. You think? Think we'll see that? You think all your lefty friends that shouted about anti-Semitism when it was connected to Trump, you think they'll be speaking up now? Do you think that every single conference Biden's given, he'll be asked, do you condemn anti-Semites like they did with Trump? Remember that? They asked him, like, I could show you the video of dozens of times Trump was asked, do you condemn white supremacy? And he was like, yeah. But they asked him every time and pretended he didn't do it. You think that Biden will get that treatment? Of course not. Of course it's different. That's different. So again, not my standard. My standard is I completely understand what Joe Biden is saying. Passions are inflamed. There could be good and bad people on both sides of these issues. But my standard doesn't matter. Let's use the Joe Biden standard. Now, about these protests on college campuses. I have two minds of this. I understand what I'm supposed to say, and I understand strategically what we should do. Maybe. But then I know what my heart tells me. So, we could use this moment as people that are Trump supporters, which, you know, I call myself a Trump supporter. I'm voting for Trump. I'm going to try my best to get Trump elected. But I've also criticized Trump heavily. My support of Trump isn't because I'm some cult-like follower of Trump. Else I wouldn't criticize him. Else I wouldn't have preferred Vivek and DeSantis over him. My support of Trump is that he is a potential outsider, and much like the 2016 election, the best chance to out the corruption in our institutions is to have someone who is a potential outsider get into a position of power, which will force the hand of those corrupt institutions in publicly going after that person. And then secondarily, hopefully they could begin to make inroads to do something about that corruption. That's why I support Trump. When we're smeared by academia, which was constant, no one said a word. I started policy debate, I think the year was 2003, in college campuses. I can't tell you how many times I was told that I should be forced out of the country because I'm white. I should lose the round because I'm white. I should be wiped from the face of the earth because I'm a man. I should be condemned because I'm Christian. It's commonplace. No one batted an eye. Of course, there are college majors on the dangers of whiteness, or college curricula on rejecting whiteness. We could show videos from 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and going forward of right-wing speakers trying to speak on college campuses and left-wing students mobbing them, beating their people trying to get in, pulling fire alarms, preventing them from speaking, surrounding them. Where was the big movement condemning it? Where was it? Where were the handful of Jewish professors you see now? That are against the anti-Israel protest. I'll tell you where they were. Joining right in. That's where they were. No, not exclusively. I can't make it more clear than this. First off, a disclaimer for bad faith and stupid people. When you talk about a group, you clearly don't mean everyone within the group. It might not even be the majority of people within that group. However, speaking as a human is almost impossible without labels. So there are a group of what I would call left-wing Jewish advocates. By the way, I have no problem with. I advocate for rural people. Some people advocate for black people. Some advocate for Christians. Some for Muslims. We're all tribal. That's fine. Sticking up for unique issues in your community, absolutely acceptable. Denigrating people based on those issues, not so much so. Where were those left-wing Jewish people, particularly in academia, whether they be professors, whether they be people that were defending academia, whether they be donators, particularly to these Ivy League institutions? Where were they for the past 2 decades? Where were they when people like me were speaking up? And obviously I'm a small voice, but there were many people like me that were speaking up. Where were they? Some may have spoke up. Brett Weinstein spoke up at Evergreen College. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything Brett Weinstein says. But Brett happens to be Jewish. Was at Evergreen College. I think that was the name of it. Was told that white students should not attend class on certain days because it needed to be a day of solidarity with minority oppressed students. He said, no, I disagree with that. And they basically surrounded him, his wife, drummed him off campus, held the principal hostage, basically. Now, as that situation was going on, where were all of the big voices you hear today going, this is despicable, this is anti-Semitism, where were they? Here's the truth, and I've talked about this before. Many of these people that vote Democrat that happen to be Jewish, or big Jewish academic leaders or cultural leaders, they were absolutely fine to play the cultural Marxism game. And that game is splitting people based on categories as oppressors versus oppressed. Most of them immutable categories, like race. They were absolutely fine with that arrangement. As long as they were considered oppressed, then it was fine. Absolutely fine. They were happy to say, damn those Christians, damn those white people, damn those men. They're terrible. They're evil. They have privilege. Tell you a story. I was back when I no longer use Facebook, basically, other than some aunt I haven't seen for 2 years, like, hey, heard your daughter's getting married, congratulations. I used to put all of my YouTube videos on Facebook, which led to a lot of problems because the Facebook people that I had built an audience with were people that were like friends, family, in real life people, and many of them didn't want to see the politics. And it just led to, I don't mind getting yelled at myself, but like, bringing in my extended family and people yelling at them. This was an incident that happened once. So one of the things you would use Facebook for would be in debate, sharing evidence. And so like back in 2000, I'm old enough on Facebook to remember when you had to have a student email. You had to be a student to get a Facebook account, a college student. So one of the things you would do in debate is someone read a piece of evidence that you wanted. You might share Facebook accounts and then say, hey, can you private message me on Facebook the link to that piece of evidence? And that was something you would do. So I had a lot of, I never went in and like deleted. Once I made you a Facebook friend, you're just a Facebook friend. I never really checked it. So I never went and deleted. So there's a lot of people on there, names I don't know, probably someone I met in the debate community. So there's this one guy who I did know, who was a director of a debate program, a very left-wing debate program, Binghamton's debate program. And I had made a YouTube video talking about white privilege and showed a couple clips of white people being beaten by minorities, looked like for racial reasons. I said, do they have white privilege? Because I was responding to Michelle Obama or someone that said, like, all white people have privilege. Did that white person have privilege? Was that an act of privilege? When they're beaten to death for their skin color? Was that also privilege in that moment? Or is it that we all have privilege and we're all underprivileged simultaneously based on a bunch of different characteristics? Nonetheless, this particular debate program chair reached out to me and was like, oh, all white people do have privilege and blah, 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 blah. Well, then one of my friends, who's a great person, whose job is, this is like a man, like a real man, unlike me, who has a man's job. His job is, he is an underwater welder. That is my friend's job. He also does regular welding, but that's what he trained to do. It's a very dangerous job, and he's very good at it. And he responded to this debate director. This is a dude that you would say is like, oh, some country bumpkin, rural Pennsylvania. What's he know? He didn't go to college. He said, what's my privilege? Can you tell me, sir? I'm white. What's my privilege? Here's what my work schedule looks like. Can you tell me what my privilege is? I work 16-hour days, blah, 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 blah. Can you tell me what my privilege is? And I'm not kidding you. This person who was the director of debate, his response was, well, think of all the things, you're going to bring out the big guns, right? Oh, this person's calling me out. They're calling me out. You're saying you don't have privilege because you're white? Oh, yeah, well, how about this? You know what he goes with? He goes, well, for one, when you cut your hand and you have to go to the pharmacy to get a Band-Aid, you can find one that matches your skin color. To which my friend replied, I use duct tape. Which is probably true. You tell some guy who's a welder about, well, when you hurt your cuticles... Just incredible. And this is a guy who's like teaching an entire program of debate students about this. That's the argument you came up with. No one cared. Lowly old white people. Most of the people I know in my life are white. Now again, I don't know how many times I could say this. I have no problem if you're like, I'm a white person and I want to advocate for white issues. You absolutely have the right to do it. There's a lot of issues that affect predominantly white people, and there's not a lot of groups that speak up for them. Same with men. I have no problem with it. You want to advocate for black people? I don't care. I don't have a problem with that either. You want to advocate for people in urban areas? Perfectly reasonable. You want to advocate for Muslims? No problem. You want to advocate for gay people? I don't have a problem with people engaging in tribalism. I think we should try to obviously have some limitations on it. Obviously try to understand people from other groups. But I'm not some person who's going to sit here and pretend to you that I don't get that it's not only appealing to advocate for people that you have some sort of connection to, but more importantly than that, it's inevitable. As humans, we can't escape tribalism. There'll be something that you have an affinity for, and that's okay. And I'm tired of pretending it's not. My tribe is rural people, particularly in my community, but in general. That's who I have an affinity for, and I don't see those people stuck up for. I'm not going to lie to you. It's predominantly white Christians in this area, but not exclusively. I have gay friends that work blue-collar jobs that live in rural America. I'm talking about them. A lot of the gas stations in my towns now are ran by people that are lawful immigrants. One of them, believe it or not, I would really love to get this person to come on and do a non-political stream. I don't think they would be down. This is a true story. It's really cool. The local gas station, people that bought this one local gas station, I'm not sure where they're from, what country they're from, but they're immigrants. They have purchased a plot of land in the area that was a former baseball field that's been dilapidated for like 20 years, and they turned it into a cricket field. And they're trying to provide equipment to people to teach people in the community to play cricket, because this is a game they like in their country, and they want to try to encourage people to. I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool to, on their own dime, like, hey, we'll provide all the stuff. We just want an area for the community to enjoy a hobby that we like. I think that's awesome. Those are rural Americans. They work 16, 18 hours a week. So, have I seen the clips of the high school debate teams? Yeah. That's exactly, it's almost exactly what debate was when I did it near 20 years ago. Same thing. None of that's new to me. I've seen that for years. So the idea of wanting to stick up for a group, you want to stick up for Jewish people, you're a Jewish person, no problem. I don't have a problem with it. But when you, in part of your advocacy, say, oh, and we're victims, and those evil white people, those evil right-wingers, those evil Christians, those evil men, those evil straight people, when you saw that occurring over and over on college campuses, and you were like, yeah, we're perfectly fine with that, because that's not us. See, victimhood is the ideal currency. That's what everyone craves. Because when you're a victim, then you have the power. So they said, yep, absolutely. We have no problem separating people by race and ethnicity and saying those are bad people and these are good people. As long as we're considered good people. I can't make it more clear than this. There are two types of people that are protesting Israel right now. There are people that legitimately understand some of what's going on with Israel and the conflict, and they are protesting what they view as indiscriminate bombing. Now, regardless if you agree with that take or not, that protest comes from a place of legitimacy. That would be someone like Liam, who was on Tim Pool with me. And another part of that is that the Israeli lobby has way too much influence in the United States. Thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate the sub. That is a legitimate take. Even if you disagree with it, it is within the realm of discussion, and we'll get to that. You're not a terrible person for raising those questions. Then there are the people that are protesting because they're cultural Marxist. And it's not much more complicated than this. I'll break down what those people are protesting. You ready? I could do it in 3 words. And this is the majority of the people on college campuses that are protesting. They fall into this group. You ready? I'll tell you what the protest is really about. All right, you ready? 3 words. Jews are white. And the counter to that aforementioned groups of the, Jewish left-wingers that were perfectly fine advocating for cultural Marxism on campus when it was white guys, their defense is also 3 words. Jews aren't white. That's what the big battle you're witnessing is. That's it. That's what you're saying. That's what the fever pitch is about. It's not people going, whoa, whoa, whoa. We shouldn't denigrate entire swaths of people based on their race. That's not what the argument is. In fact, you remember a while ago where there's civil rights legislation in California, in their state legislature, that was written that said, you can't prioritize people for jobs based or prioritize or exclude people based on employment or for employment based on government positions based on things like race, ethnicity, gender, blah, blah, blah. And it was the Democrats that are trying to overturn that. Why? Because they do want to punish people based on certain races, ethnicities, etc. And they do want to reward people. That's why they want that out. They want that out. No, we do want to reward people based on their race. Now, I'll just leave you take a wild guess which races they want to punish and which races they want to reward. You go ahead. This debate isn't about, no, we should end that. We should treat people as individuals. That's not what the debate is. The debate is a bunch of people going, you're oppressors, just like those white people. You are white. And these left-wing Jewish people go, no, we're not white. We're people of color. We're oppressed. That's it. And then what I'm supposed to do, and what you're supposed to do, and all of us, regardless of our skin color, whether we've been deemed oppressor, regardless of our political beliefs, regardless of our religion, any of us that may have been called an oppressor for any of those groups previously, we're supposed to drop everything we're doing and go, oh my goodness, no! Now look what they're doing on campuses. Now I know that maybe that would be the political correct position, to reach out to those previous Democrat voters that were Jewish, that were okay with the treatment of Christians or white people or straight people or except conservatives on college campuses. I know the prudent thing would be to reach out to them and go, well, you see, this is what we are warning you about. And this has been going on for years. And now it's came for you. And then after you get lumped in with us, there'll be a next group until the snake totally eats its tail. But I don't give a shit. Because you know what the truth is? Most of those people, they're going to keep voting Democrat. They're going to keep saying, we're not evil white people. Yes, you're right. The white people are evil. They're terrible. They have privilege. You're absolutely right about that. But that's not us. Oh, and sir, white sir, conservative that we said was evil. Trump supporter that we said was evil. Please defend us on this. Please come over and defend us on this. Please. I'm good. Thanks. I'm going to keep fighting for my community that can't afford to pay rent anymore. That's where I'll be. You have fun on college campuses where we've been basically kicked out of for the past 20 years. Have fun. Let them eat themselves. Let the college campuses totally immolate. I don't care. At all. I don't care. I'm tired of it. I've told you story after story. Democrat friends I have that'll be like, oh my God, you won't believe this DEI stuff at my work. My God, it's terrible, blah, 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 blah. How you gonna vote? Well, I'm still voting Democrat. Enjoy. Hey. And I know that there's a counter argument to this, and I'm willing to listen to it. I'm keeping an open mind. I know there are people like, oh, you know, when you look at these people in the cities now that are facing these crime waves and women that are just being punched and women don't have safe spaces anymore because, you know, now they're saying the Title IX changes say that men could be in women's spaces and blah, blah, blah. We should be reaching out to them. I hope someone is. Randy West, thanks so much for the super chat. $2 says, let's tip Rob, guys, show support. Right, what's wrong with you people? Now, if you're tight on money, I totally get it. But I do appreciate the support, Randy. Thank you. People that are completely... And would I run for Congress again? It's not just that I'm black-pilled, though. That's part of it. I would be miserable doing it. It would be a service on my part because I wouldn't have fun doing it. But if I ever felt that I could do a lot of good and it would be worth my self-sacrifice, maybe. The problem is I don't have time right now. And it now, before it had to outweigh my personal life, and the only sacrifice that I had to look at was how it would affect me and my wife. And as an adult, me and my wife were able to come to the decision as adults that we both could make that sacrifice. It's not fair to ask my son, who's only 3, for that sacrifice. Thank you, Jim Bob Shoulders. $5 super chat says, let's do it. Thank you so much. Hey, Webmaster, how's it going? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing the people in my community that are struggling to get by. Seeing businesses leave more and more every day. Seeing the cost of living go up. And no one gives a shit. No one cares about them. No one. They are the villains in this story. Not the wealthy Democrat and Republican politicians that are millionaires. Not them. They're not the villains. Not the corporate owners. Not them. They all say Black Lives Matter. They all say conservatism, it's evil. It's terrible. It needs to be rejected. They're all in on the progressive. They're all in on it. The revolution is sponsored by Nike. But wait a minute. If politicians and corporations and all of these people in institutions of power are siding with the revolutionaries, who are they revolting against? Who's the bad guy? Me. My community. Those are the bad guys. Those evil white conservatives. Flyover country. Oh, they're so greedy. Why don't you come through my town? We'll take a look at the greed. My dad used to work at a window factory. Worked there for over a decade. Went into work one Tuesday. They said, yeah, you're done Friday. What are you going to do as a 40-year-old man? Right across the street from that window place was a place called Owens, Illinois. They made beer bottles. Biggest job in town. They shut down. Now the only job really left is the university campus, a state university, which enrollment goes down and down and down and down every year. So you had a bunch of restaurants and stuff that were supported by the local economy, by the people that worked at OI. So you had, OI had even third shift, so you had 3 shifts there. So you had people that worked the night shift. There was a bar restaurant called The Tavern that used to open at like 6 a.m. And they'd get like a heavy crowd of the third shift UIers that would get off at like 7 a.m. So they would go there for what would basically be tantamount to their dinner, blow off some steam, have some beers. As a former alcoholic myself, and friends of some of those people, I used to go over and drink with the OI people at 7 a.m. some days, even though I didn't work the night shift. But, no one gave a shit. That all those places, no one cares about that. No one cared under COVID how devastated this community was. No one cared. Who cares? We're just old white people. That's what we are. Old conservatives. We're a drain on this country. Just shut up and die. No one gives a shit. No one on late night comedy speaking up for us. No one in the entertainment industry speaking up. Heck, when you get 1 or 2 people that you think really do, like, I don't know, bands I like the Avett Brothers or Tyler Childs, they can't wait to tell you how much they side with Black Lives Matter and progressive politicians. Can't wait to tell you how much they hate the people that looked up to them. Can't wait. Name me the institution that sticks up for rural America. Blue-collar workers. Who is it? Now, I'm not saying there aren't problems in the inner city. Of course there are. And many of them far more devastating. I didn't have to worry about getting shot walking to school. That happens in the inner city. But one of the things you see is people at least claim to provide lip service to those causes. Oh, oh, yes. No, maybe that's just as bad. Maybe it's even worse. I don't know. I'd love to talk to someone from those communities that actually really care about those issues and how they feel about the constant pandering from politicians and institutionalists that really don't care about their way of life. And so I watch drugs become more of a problem in this area, and every year more people are hooked on pain pills, more people die of fentanyl, more people in jail for crimes they committed on heroin. Thanks, Beard. I gotta watch people like Rick Wilson, conservatives like Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project, go on TV and talk to Don Lemon and talk about Trump's 10-toothed rubes in flyover country that are afraid of the brown horde. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. You see? Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. You see? Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issues. Because you're a racist if you want to talk about issu Even though I don't perceive me as talking about issues unique to white people, I'm talking about rural people, which includes people of color. But I'm supposed to drop what I'm doing and help some professor at Columbia? Because he's Jewish? Because the mob that he helped create is now turning on him? Thank you, Zens, for it. Says Israel to the USA like I am to Rub. You're running the show? Crisco says it's also happening in rural Canada. It's really bad where I'm at. Can't even go outside during dusk. Dusk, not even night. Yep. And you know what's terrible? There's a lot of people in my position that actually will, on principle, be like, yeah, what's happening on these campuses is wrong. They will. Thank you so much, Nico, for the $20 super chat. Thank you. Vita, thanks so much. $5 super chat says, Stephen A. Smith just had put an apology for saying something positive about Trump. Screw them all. Yep. I saw that. What's up, Noise taking on Kick? Nice to see you. Just because it's quiet on Kick, Noise taken, you can see, people can still see what you're typing on YouTube and Twitch, so feel free to join in on the chat. Good going. It's like when I said when you had all these professional football around where I'm at, like, I mean, here's the truth. We're all responsible for ourselves to some extent. We are. Even if you live in a situation that's a high crime, high poverty rate, doesn't mean that you have to give in to be a criminal yourself, or that you have to give in and not try to work to improve yourself. And that's true for individuals, but as communities, it's predictable to see if you stack the deck in a certain way, how it can have negative outcomes. What do you think about Biden thinks about Turkey? I don't know. He's a globalist. Doesn't care for Turkey would be my guess. But I watch people around here, and you could say maybe they could have made better choices, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm not one to really judge people because they didn't make the best financial decisions or they didn't make the best career choices. I'll judge people for moral failings if I think that the extent demands it, like harming children. But short of that, I would bartend. I would watch these guys that are, roofing crew, making $11 an hour, working all day up on a roof, hot sun, climbing ladders with shingles and stuff. Hard work, man. You're 50s, your back's giving out. It sucks, man. You're constantly so. Thank you so much, Gizmo. I appreciate the cheer. No Israel problem. And I would watch them, and you know what they wanted to do? Oh my goodness, it's Sunday. I can't wait to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm gonna go to the bar with my friends. $1.50 drafts, order a pizza, watch Steelers. Now you got these professional athletes. Insert your professional team, football, basketball, whatever. You get it. It doesn't have to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's just what I saw. They're making millions of dollars, and I'm not even going to say they don't deserve it. They have a specialized talent that people are willing to pay to see. Okay. I can't do it. No problem. But they won the jackpot, man. They did put in hard work, but most of them wouldn't be there without hard work plus genetics that helped them get there. And instead of taking a step back on, wow, I get paid millions of dollars to do a game that I love, that millions of people would love and would love to do. No. They're like, you know what the problem with this country is? People like all those hardworking people. I'm going to kneel for the anthem. I'm going to blame them. Imagine being that guy that works that 9-to-5 job that's approaching 60, whose back's blown out. And you would have every right to be like, man, life threw me a curveball. This sucks. All these people with more privilege than me. This sucks. But they never talk like that. In fact, quite the opposite. They're very happy. They're okay with the arrangement. They make the most of it. And the little areas of enjoyment they have, even there they have to be told, you're lucky, you're privileged, you're a piece of shit. It's surreal. It's surreal watching it. Let me go tell the people that worked at the glass plant that got shut down, hey, I know it sucks that you guys got shut down and then you tried to start a small business and that got shut down during COVID and now you could barely afford to provide groceries and you had to sell your house and now you could barely afford to pay for rent. I know that all sucks for you and your prospects don't look really good. But did you know that a bunch of wealthy people at Columbia feel oppressed right now because the same students that shouted you and people down and people like you down for the past 20 years are now shouting them down? So stop your life and go fucking help them so that you can get back to no one giving a shit about you. Thank you, Lavin. Lavin. I don't know why I said it like that. Thank you so much. Appreciate the subs. Everyone's really generous tonight. Thank you. It's not on people like me, and not even me, because I'll tell you right now, I'm in a different, unique situation. I'm not wealthy. I live paycheck to paycheck too, but I'm incredibly lucky, and I acknowledge it. I'm one of the luckiest people that have ever lived. I'm relatively healthy. I have a healthy wife, a healthy son that are the best. I love my life. I don't have a lot of complaints about my personal life. Austin Peterson. I like Austin. I'd love to talk to him someday. But I'm supposed to tell those people, hey, go support these people that don't care about you. How about this? How about the people that were wrong make amends? How about the people that feel that they're being disenfranchised on campuses because of their ethnicity stand up and say, you know what, I wish I would have paid more attention for what was going on in academia the past 30 years. I wish I would have paid attention when Ben Shapiro tried to speak on campus and they beat the shit out of a bunch of conservatives that wanted to see him. When Laken Riley got surrounded, I wish I would have spoke up. What was the girl that went by the name Gun Girl? When she got chased off of campuses. When conservative speaker after conservative speaker were being chased off campuses. Where any conservative that tried to speak up was getting chased off campuses. Was shouted down. Where conservative students feel that they can't even speak up anymore, even in their classes. When white people were demonized in these curricula over and over again. Same with Christians. When men's issues were laughed at. I used to have this clip, I think unfortunately when this computer I'm using now got restored, I lost this clip. I used to have it saved, and it was one of these shows that you see in the UK, like where they would have these political talk shows where they'd have MPs and others on there, and they were talking about minorities struggling in schools, and one of the guests correctly brought up that, you know, the statistics show the group at the very bottom now of performance in public schools in the UK are white European boys. And the panel laughed. They laughed. World-renowned Geohan says, you're a liberal from Destiny's Audience. If you go Trump, do I keep it to myself? It depends. Let me give you an easier situation. I had people ask me, because at one point my job was going to be a professor. I have no doubt that my videos and political leanings kept me from getting hired at at least one university. I have inside information to the effect. Nonetheless, when people would ask me, like, I'm going to campus or I'm taking classes, when I took classes, I just told them what I knew they wanted to hear. Like, I'll give you an example. I had this geography class, or geology class, and the professor you could tell day one, huge socialist or a communist. Huge. So the second day of class, I'm sitting in the back, and he starts talking about the climate crisis. And he's like, what's the solution? What can people come up with? Let's talk. What's the solution? And the first one student's like, we need more like renewables, like solar. He starts talking about solar. And this next kid's like, but solar wouldn't provide enough, tidal power. That's where it's at. And then, they're talking about wind and tidal and blah, blah, blah. And so you know what I said? I raised my hand. And I spoke up. And this is what I said. I said, no, the problem itself is the consumption mindset. You see, everyone here is trying to think of new ways to exploit the earth. But the truth is, we have not earned the right to exploit the earth. We need to live in harmony with it. So we need to change our way of life, not find new ways that we could force the earth to provide for us. Needless to say, I got an A+, 100% in that class. It's easy. It's easy to talk like they want. Just come up with the fakest bullshit you could think of. Now, that's not necessarily what I'm telling you to do. But the point is it worth the negativity in your personal life to make some sort of statement? Probably not. I find myself in situations all the time. I will find myself in this situation this weekend where I'm going to a bachelor party. Now, when I say that, things come to your mind, right? Bachelor parties. Oh, you guys going out to a strip club and something? No, what we did was we rented a cabin for 2 nights in the local forest. Most of the people coming to this used to live in this area and now don't. They live in the city. So they really want to come to the local woods and stuff that they're familiar with. So that's what we're going to do. We might do a little shooting, fishing, and we'll be drinking and playing poker and stuff. But it won't be like strip club stuff like that. Now I would guess 75% of the people there would be pretty close to my political affiliation. And yet every one of us will understand the handful that come that are not. There's at least 1 or 2 of them that are adamantly not. And they'll bring up politics and we won't. And we'll have to go, yeah, you're probably right. Because it's not worth ruining this event. Thank you so much, Free Thought, for the subscription. It's not worth ruining this event with friends. And it almost always falls on me in our friend circle. Because I have a lot of left-wing friends. So I go to, and most of the time it's not just like people, it's different. If people are just coming over to my house to hang out and they start arguing, I'll argue. But if I'm at someone's wedding, I'm not going to ruin their wedding because someone's like, Trump's the biggest piece of shit in the world. He deserves to be in jail for the next 1,000 years. And anyone who votes for him, I don't know how you can vote for that piece of shit. He's a Nazi. He's racist. He's a criminal. And I'll just be like, well, what can you do, Anyways, I heard that you got a new car. What's that about, man? It's on me to do that. Or ruin the wedding. Ruin the good time. I did, John. Maybe we'll talk about that, John Tusker. So, when I'm around family members, there aren't many of them, but I have 9 aunts and an uncle, and they are almost all older than my dad, and they all had 6, 7 kids. So I have dozens upon dozens of cousins and second cousins and a big extended family. There's a handful of them that hate what I do, hate the politics that I espouse. If I go to a family reunion and they're there, I'm not going to argue with them. I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure. So, my advice to you is, your unique situation better than me. If it's going to affect your personal relationships to the point where you're going to be ostracized or affect your job, just keep it to yourself. Yeah, and again, I'm of the persuasion, I'll shit on some of my close friends, like my buddy Tom, who helped run my campaign. He's a Democrat. I'll make fun of him all the time for voting Democrat. But he also knows that I'm doing it in a way that it could be like, dude, you're a dumbass. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Oh, well, we're still friends. I don't think you're an immoral, horrible person, whatever. Rob for King, I take it. So, that's my advice on that. So, yeah, we'll see if those people, that feel that they're being mistreated on college campuses all of these people, we'll see. Yeah. Now, I do want to piggyback into something else surrounding this, and that is the Jeremy Boring, Seth Dillon, Ben Shapiro war against Tucker Carlson, which they won't say his name, but they are criticizing the fact that he says things like, I'm just asking questions. Let's be adults and say what's really going on. They have a point. A lot of what Tucker Carlson is saying, he's not coming right out and saying because he's aware of the implications of if he comes right out and say it, he will be called an anti-Semite. Yes, Tucker Carlson is saying, why are there certain groups, i.e. Jewish groups, i.e. Israel, that it seems that so many Republican influencers and Republican congressmen will shout you down if you ever dare to question. That's what he's saying. How come Candace Owens gets fired for questioning Israel? That's what he's saying. He's not coming right out and saying that. He's saying, I'm just asking questions. Now, a lot of times I do the same thing. You know, it is possible to be like, look, I don't know the answer to this, but I have relevant questions, and when I ask the questions, I get screamed at. That tells me something. It doesn't mean that I'm always right when I say, geez, that looks like there's something there. It might still be nothing, but you can't blame someone in our current environment of lies and secrecies and our government not giving a shit at all about the average constituent. You can't blame people from saying, well, when you tell me I can't question this, it seems like there's something there. Jeremy Boring and Seth Dillon and them are like, let me tell you about people asking questions. This is cowardice, blah, blah, blah. Man up and say you're talking about Tucker Carlson. Just say it. That's what you're talking about. We all know it. Anyone who's paying attention, don't hide behind it. You're no better than what you're accusing him of if you're unwilling to just straight call him out. I don't care if it's Israel or Ukraine. The fact that my government, in fact, one of the chambers is ran by the party that supposedly is the party that I support. And when you look at the issues that voters of the Republican Party are most concerned with, things like inflation, things like border are top of the list. And yet, it seems like the leadership of the Republican Party doesn't care at all about those issues. To the point where, not only are they sending billions of dollars overseas for their border and not for ours, but then they have the audacity to wave the flags of those nations in our government. And yet, I'm told by people like Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Boring, like, how dare people say, how dare, what do you mean you're just asking questions? I'll go further than just asking questions. I'll say that our government, including Speaker Johnson, including Mitch McConnell, and the majority of the Republican leadership, and large conservative influencers like those at the Daily Wire, give a shit more about foreign countries than the United States. Because they are more passionate about Israel or Ukraine getting money than they are about keeping the basic promises that they had of the constituents of this country, the bare minimum, like secure the border. They'll show more passion for securing the border of other countries, and they'll have more contempt for people that call that out. Yeah, puck flicker, and so now what I'm seeing, Thomas Massey, who shares my outrage with the waving of Ukrainian flags after this travesty, the Sergeant of Arms under Mike Johnson reaches out to him and says, we're going to fine you if you don't take that video down. Tiganu says, it's unfathomable that they fought mercilessly against Trump's request for $8 billion for a while giving hundreds of billions of foreign governments on the other side of the world. That's right, because it is a uniparty at the top level. We are literally in a situation where they spend billions upon billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. And then when you say, wow, people are struggling back here, why are you sending all this money overseas? They go, oh, it's not that much. It's only 150 billion. That's only 1% of our spending. It's only 1%. That's it. That's all it is. Then this 150 billion they send here, now that gets added to the pot of bullshit money they've spent. So the next time they want to spend more bullshit money, they'll say, but you already left us spend that 150 billion. This is nothing. This is nothing. And then when finally you're like, okay, well, we'd like to spend 10 billion on the wall or the border. That's too much. Whoa. Does anyone remember when the largest government shutdown in U.S. history was? Does anyone? Think back. When was it? I think the Daily Wire is probably a net benefit, believe it or not. Yeah, it was like 2019. When Democrats controlled the House. Now, I remember Jimmy Kimmel in 2015 when Obama was there and Republicans were like, we're going to shut down the government because we're not getting things we want. Jimmy Kimmel went on national television and cried, what about women's WIC? They can't get milk for their kids. They can't get their WIC payments, their insurance. Oh my God, these evil Republicans. But then when those women couldn't get it in 2019 because the government shut down, where was Jimmy Kimmel? Weird. I didn't see his tears. Or, to put it another way, when I did this debate panel the other day, like a month ago, I think it was Pondering Politics and Hutch, they were making the argument, you see, the Democrats are better because they actually are willing to govern with the other side. That's why when Biden's in office, things get done, but when Trump was in office, we had a large shutdown. Right, because the Democrats were unwilling to sign off on anything Trump wanted. In other words, if your argument was which side works with the others more, it's clearly Republicans. They give in to everything the Democrats want. And even on that, the Democrat supporters can admit, you're right, Republicans are willing to cave and give in on stuff to get things Democrats want, but we weren't willing to do it. We had a government shutdown. Well, that's right, Dirty Bird Distiller. You remember about, what was it, a year and a half, 2 years ago? I debated a left-wing streamer named Bastien on Ukraine spending. And at that point, we were talking about whatever the relevant package was then. And I said, will this be enough? Because I know it won't. I know that they're going to ask for billions upon billions upon billions of more. So how many times are we going to have this debate? Oh, if you just send this money, this will be enough. We'll get it done. And 6 months from now, well, we're losing because we don't send more money. How long are we going to do it? Mitch McConnell gave a press conference today when he was I worked together with Schumer. We worked together with Mr. Schumer to get this bill passed. And the reason it took so long to get this aid to the people of Ukraine was Tucker Carlson. He convinced millions of people and that Ukraine was the bad guys, and he's exactly where he should have been, interviewing Vladimir Putin. See? Because it's clear that Tucker's a stooge of Putin. But hey, you got to give McConnell credit for learning from the Democrats. Yep, anyone I don't like is a stooge of Putin. See, the truth is, people like McConnell were absolutely fine with the bullshit Russia collusion hoax. Because they didn't want Trump. They're fine with that line of attack. Oh, he must be a Russian stooge. Yeah, I saw that too. So the FBI is being sued by the victims of Larry Nassar, who was the U.S. gymnast coach that molested all of these underage girls. Now they're being sued $200 million, which means because the FBI chose intentionally to cover up for Larry Nassar, they're not being punished. They're not being sued for $200 million. You're being sued. Your tax dollars. By the way, that's roughly the cost of the new FBI building. Isn't it like $300 million? So if I would say, oh, you know that building we promised you? Yeah, that money's going to these victims that you refuse to work for. Oh, let's see. Want to do some fun stuff? Here's a Stone Toss comic I thought was funny. There's a comic. Twitter's anarchy symbols. He's breaking terms of service. And this person says, what the F is this supposed to mean? Is this person really saying anarchy symbols is worse than literal racial slur? And this person responds, he's not. He's saying that people consider themselves anarchists or anti-establishment will sometimes be the first to complain to those in charge when someone is mean to them. To which the response is, okay, but he's also a Nazi. Do you really want to side with a Nazi? Woo! The response is better than the actual comic. So you're an anarchist. I believe in the removal of the police and all this stuff. Oh, wait, someone's vandalizing a way I don't like. Call the police. Well, I have to or else I'm siding with Nazis. I mean, I don't even know how to begin to explain how insanely hilarious that is. The actual comic gets to the thrust of the problem that these anarchists, they don't want to abolish the police. They want to reform the police to be their own personal foot soldiers. In fact, they claim to be against authority, but will be the first people to appeal to authority when it benefits them. Then when called out upon this, they say, well, we have to do this or else we side with Nazis, which explains their whole worldview in the first place. It's not about applying logical, philosophical, or cultural or political beliefs. It's about the belief that you are morally virtuous and your opponents or people you perceive as against you are morally inferior. Therefore, anything is justified to go against them. So when you say, I'm an anarchist, I'm against authority, what you really mean is no one should be allowed to tell me what to do. But as soon as someone that disagrees with me, there should be authority figures that tell them what to do. I just want to be in charge of those authority figures. It's absolutely hilarious. This is a great little comic. But you can't side with Nazis. It's good. Good stuff. Let's see what else I had saved. Jesse Kelly tweets out, this is absolutely true. Here, I'll put the link up. Trump doubles down on Mike Johnson after foreign aid vote. Jesse Kelly's post, Trump and the establishment types need each other right now and it's killing us. They need Trump to protect them from their angry base. He needs their money to run for president and he's going to need their help if he gets there. In the meantime, it's killing us. That's absolutely right. Absolutely correct. We'll fight hard for Trump. He has almost no chance of winning. And then if he does win, he has almost no chance of doing anything meaningful. Good stuff. Let's see how Australia's doing. Here's some politicians in Australia suggesting what should be done with Elon Musk. What was his crime, by the way? People say hateful things on X, and he allows it. Up. Might help if I put the audio on.
The alleged attack, and Elon Musk really showing contempt for the government and its approach on this issue. What's your take on the tech billionaire?
So when it comes to the tech billionaire, like I've already said, I think he's a social media knob with no social conscience. He has absolutely no social conscience. Someone like that should be in jail and the key be thrown away. That bloke should not have a right to be out there on his own ideology platform and creating hatred, showing all this stuff out there to our kids and doing all the rest. I'm very interested to watch what the US is going to do with TikTok and how far that they can do with trying to get rid of that platform as well. So I think we're all watching on the United States at the moment to see what they're doing. But seriously, if we can move, and if that means in the next sitting that we can shut him down from doing this, because this is
happy to kick them out? You kick the platform out?
I don't give a stuff about the platform. I'm happy to go off the platform today, to be honest with you. I already have a list of all you journalists. I don't even know why we're on the platform. But I say this to everybody else. I'll be switching off X today. I'll be doing that before I get to the airport this afternoon. And I suggest that the other 227 members of parliament do the same thing and show them that you mean business. Because when you want to lead by example, it has to happen from here. It has to happen from here. So start switching off X. Start throwing it back at him. But we've got to start from here.
Jackie Lambie, David Pocock, great to see you both, and happy birthday.
He should be in jail. Now, I'm not someone who's going to say women shouldn't be involved in politics or women shouldn't vote. I'm not saying any of that. However, one of the things I will say is for years and years, in fact, I saw this the other day. There was I think it was Will Ferrell was at some like women's event and was speaking, was like, seriously, women should, I'm not just saying this to say it, women should be in charge of the world. They should be in charge of the world. And this used to be this meme that we'd hear all the time that like women ran things, everything. How many of these people that are the biggest authority, like remember the Prime Minister of New Zealand? We'll tell you the truth. Only through us can you get the truth. This idea, this moral preening, that somehow they are the moral authoritarians and they have the right to decide what should be said. Now, I can't speak to free speech laws in Australia, Canada, other places where you hear this sort of rhetoric. But what it is it's terrible for those specific countries that they don't have this sort of free speech, even enshrined, as farcical as our Constitution and Bill of Rights is in the sense that it's not followed by any of our elected leaders. At least we could make the argument that it's supposed to be. Can't even do that in places like Australia. But you're seeing exactly the roadmap of what is the dream of the globalist in our country, in the United States as well. I've said it dozens of times. Elon Musk is a bigger threat to their agenda than Donald Trump. Thank you, Vita, for the super chat. Rob, you ruined me. I used to be happy-go-lucky shitlib always winning. Now you turn me into populist who takes more L's than Washington Generals. That's basically who we are, the lovable loser Washington Generals. Just like America, we have two sides. You just viewed the left. Yeah. Meanwhile, we have report after report showing that CP and assault of children routinely was covered up by Meta and Facebook. Weird how I don't hear all the people clamoring about the hate speech on X saying a word about it. Weird. Isn't that strange? that weird? Actual children being harmed. Don't have much to say about those platforms. Remember when it was it, am I getting this wrong? Am I misremembering? You remember BitChute? I think it was BitChute, right? And there was one of these shooters that supposedly had a BitChute account, and everyone was like, oh, dude, this is a dangerous platform. This dude was on BitChute. But he was on Facebook as well, posting some of the same posts. And no one said, well, we got to get rid of Facebook. I wonder why. Well, one is up and coming and allows political speech of various sides, and the other donates heavily to the people in positions of power in this country. So now we have an article coming out today saying that a research group looked into it and thought that Facebook's intervened in 39 elections since 2008, including their Zuckerbucks that they were sending to fortify the election. We can't criticize them. Now, I'm not saying that I deserve to have millions of subscribers or viewers or anything like that. But imagine the thumb on the scale of all of these algorithms and these companies and these politicians, etc., promoting establishment narratives and voices that push those narratives, and demoting narratives that challenge them. Doing fine, Ninja. Who knows where I'd be if I was just a shitlib? I'm not saying I'd have tens of thousands, but I bet I'd have a couple hundred people watching me easily every live stream. Probably make a career out of it. We just accept it. Well, that's the way it is. Certain things you can't say, blah, 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 blah. That's the way it is. Moving on. Where are politicians? Where are the Republicans? We're going to get right on that, Rob. Republicans, come together. We're going to pass a bill to send more money to Ukraine. Let's keep funding those intel agencies that are helping censor people like Rob. Jimmy Dore does he call himself a shitlib? No, he calls other shitlibs, you know. I'd love to do Jimmy Dore's show. I don't agree with him everything, but I'd love to talk to him. Here's some more great Australian. Another lady. Thank you so much, Terry, for the follow. I appreciate it.
I don't know, whatever Elon Musk is on, it says that that's okay to continue to air that is absolutely disgusting behaviour. And quite frankly, the bloke should be jailed. And the sooner that we can bring rules in or do something about this sort of game playing with our social media, the better off we're going to be. But quite frankly, the power that man has, because of that platform that he's on, it's got to stop. It has absolutely got to stop.
Notice they didn't say anything when all of these institutions were ran by billionaire lefties. They didn't care. No one talked about the power of Zuckerberg. Never said that. And again, the problem is when you view yourself as morally virtuous, there is no such thing as fairness. It's just more power for you. That's all they want. And the argument they're really making is they deserve 100% power. They deserve 100% control of the narrative. And if they only have 99.9999% control of the narrative, they say, that's outrageous. How dare you? I did vote in the primary. I'm pretty cozy. Let's see what else I had to talk about. They released a bunch of stuff unredacted now with the Trump Classic Records case, right? And all of this stuff was redacted for national security and all this. Jack Smith said it all needed to be redacted for these sorts of reasons. So here you can see. Almost as soon as President Trump left office, NARA started work at the White House Office of Record Management and exaggerated claims related to records handling under the PRA. On May 5th, 2021, less than 5 months after the end of President's terms, NARA General Counsel Gary Stern, everything redacted. However, in early June 2021, during ongoing good faith efforts by President Stern, this is what's redacted. Gary Stern sent an internal email attaching a draft letter to President Trump's PRA representative. Stern noted that he had several conversations with the White House ORM and that he had raised some of these concerns with David Ferraro, the NARA archivist. Stern's draft conceded that these things were very chaotic, as they always are in the course of a one-term transition. He acknowledged that the transfer of Trump electronic records is still ongoing and won't be complete for several more months. NARA employee explained to the FBI that it is not uncommon that the PRA material collection extends past the close of any presidential administration, sometimes well after the close of any given presidential administration. However, in early June 2021, during ongoing good faith efforts by President Trump's PRA representatives to address the issue raised by NARA, Ferraro declared, "I'm out of patience." Huh. Now we find out that a lot of this was occurring through the Attorney General's office. Maybe he'll Terry, but I still argue with people when I feel it. At least I'm not typing in all caps. It's always like this. We're always, we got to redact, we got to do this, we can't release this evidence to the defense, we have to do these trials like this and this, and then every time when you look at it in the post talk, it's like, Trying to open Discord. This probably crashed my computer. For God's sakes. Alright. Well, if anyone wants to debate or talk to me on Discord, just let me know. You can hear as soon as I opened it up. You hear it? The computer. robnoerr's hair. Where are you? How did I lose you? My goodness. Yeah, the computer fan's crazy, isn't it? What do we want to talk about? We got some time. We can probably go till 10. We'll save that Jan 6 stuff for tomorrow, maybe. Okay, thanks so much. I don't want that. Let's see. Enter my password. Wait a minute. This isn't. Okay. I want to make sure that I wasn't showing my password to everyone. No, for crying out loud. Two-factor authentication, blah. Yes, it's me. How are you? Oh, I got something. For y'all. See if you like this. So, one of the things I was going to do, and I'm sorry I didn't get around to this, I actually was going to show a debate of the people that are running for our local state politics, the local area. I was going to, there was a debate, and I was going to see what you all thought of that. But I didn't get around to that, unfortunately. However, what's today's date? Oh boy. I wanted to show you the local candidate for Democrat that's running in that office. And I'm going to see if I could do a little response in the local paper. Where was this? Oh boy. Now I live in author. Okay. Let me go to the restroom. I'll be right back. All right, let's see if I can find this for you. I think you'll be pleased. I did not destroy the toilet. All right. So, local election for state office, state Congress, right? House, state representative. Republicans, 4 Republicans running. I had my favorite. Talk more about it after tonight, but I went and voted, etc., etc. This is the primary, though. There will be a general election. Republicans will win where I'm at. So this is basically the election. This is a very conservative, rural community. Now, historically, Democrats that run here, it's difficult to find success, but those that do are basically Republicans. So it might be like, I'm a Democrat, but I'm pro-life, I'm pro-Second Amendment, but I think we're spending too much money on the local police. So they'll take like one issue that they disagree with, and then they'll make that their whole campaign and say, but I agree on all this other stuff, which is smart. Twitch chatters are insane, yeah. They trade Twitch people. What can you do? That's traditionally. I want to show you who the Democrat is that's running for the State House here. And we're going to go through a letter that they wrote. There was a debate that was held by... I'm not pro... First off, timing you out would have nothing to do with whether or not I'm pro First Amendment. Secondly, I didn't time you out. So, whatever. There was a debate with 4 Republican candidates that was pretty civil, and they asked them each the same questions. Unbeknownst to me, at that debate, the Democrat candidate was invited and chose not to show up. And so now I'm going to show you the Democrat. This is the person who will be the Democrat candidate. Ran unopposed as a Democrat for state rep in my district. This is Kat Ritchie. She was very, very, very upset and would not be able to attend because of the physical assault and harassment that they would have received. So, we're going to read this response. This was from April 19th, so just 4 days ago. So let's see what Ms. Ritchie has to say. Quote, people would be able to physically assault and harass me. Democratic state rep candidate on why she didn't attend forum. In the release, Ritchie also responded to questions posed to the candidates who participated in the forums. Maybe we'll look at a couple of those too. The following release was issued by Kat Ritchie, Democrat candidate for PA State Representative of the 63rd District. Dear followers, friends, and supporters, and the opposition. I like the 2 ands there. That would be me, opposition. Thanks for the dear. You may have noticed that I didn't attend the campaign forum held by ExploreClaring.com at the Haskell House on March 29, 2024. This was a very intentional decision. I owe it to you all to explain why I didn't attend and what wasn't intended to be a campaign forum at all, but a hate rally. Now, I watched it. This is what's crazy. I watched it, and you know what I didn't notice? Bunch of tiki torches, nooses, clubs waiting to beat up, any women. Didn't see that. Looked like just a typical small town, 4 people running for office answering questions. That's what it looked like to me. They streamed it live. I didn't know it was a hate rally, but apparently, what do I know? I'm just a cisgendered white man, so, First, I'd like to address the various levels of hate that came from the present candidates and from the audience. I knew when I was invited that the invitation I got was only a token invite, so that the company could say they invited every candidate. How do I know this? It was sent to my campaign page by someone who has blocked me on all other social media, and it refuses to address the frequent, dangerous, and disturbing comments that are made by members and administrators of his Facebook group. He and his, quote, team have cultivated an environment where the people present in that building, should they know me at all, would be able to physically assault and harass me, and the crowd would cheer for it. So, just to catch you up, apparently a person, I don't know if they're a government official, my guess is no, a person who was one of the volunteers with setting up this debate has a Facebook page who has blocked this person, but still made sure that a member of their community got this person an invitation to this event. Now, the fact that this person is blocked and there have been members of his community on his Facebook page. So, like, if I put a story up on Facebook, like, going fishing, hoping to catch a big trout, and Todd Sullivan says, why don't you lose some weight, chubby? And Nico Pluto says, hey, F off. Then Todd would say, Rob refuses to deal with the harassment that I'm getting from people on his Facebook. I feel physically threatened. Physically threatened. See how that works? We have no idea. Now, I'll say this. Let's for a second assume that perhaps this person is telling the truth. Let's assume that they were interacting with a person's Facebook page who was going to be setting up this debate, and that person was cultivating an environment where slurs or hateful things were being said, or violent threats were being said to this candidate here, Ms. Ritchie. Let's assume that's the case, or that that's potentially the case. How would we decide without Ms. Ritchie here posting what those were? Wouldn't you screenshot it? Wouldn't you post it so that we could have proof? So the best we're going to be able to do is judge based on the available evidence we have. So if they say, actually, I've been physically threatened and blah, 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 blah on this person's page, and that's why I didn't feel like coming, we might want to then judge based on the context of what they're going to say about the event that was public, that we could all see, and determine whether or not they're being hyperbolic or not. In other words, if you claim to be a victim of harassment and intimidation and attempted physical violence, and then you say a benign public debate held in public by a bunch of basically blue-haired grandmas and older people that are like, thank you so much for coming, and you call that a vicious hate group, why the fuck should we believe you when you say you were physically intimidated and harassed? Which might explain why they didn't post screen caps. My guess, if I just had to guess, how much you want to bet if I looked into this, I'd be right. This is a person that started talking shit on Facebook to other people. Then people talk shit back. And, like all good lefties, she then plays the perpetual victim. That's what happened, most likely. We'll continue. Additionally, several disparaging things about you were said at the... Oh my goodness. Okay, this is supposedly a statement from the candidate, Kat Ritchie. This candidate. Now listen to this. Additionally, several disparaging things about you were said at the event. What do you mean about you? You're writing in the first person. Almost like they didn't even watch the damn event and someone sent them a message and said they were saying mean things about you. Then she copy and pasted it onto her letter. It's surreal. Continuing. Several disparaging things that were said about me, I assume they're trying to say, were said at the event that had absolutely zero pushback from the moderator. Things about trans people being barred from playing high school sports. Comments about every candidate being vocally willing to strip women of this district and their constitutional rights. Lies about the incumbent representative has done to address the transportation and EMS crisis in this county, and more. Zero disparaging things were said about... Disparaging things about you... I mean, I don't know what... Do they know what disparaging means? Are they just trying to say incorrect? Is that the word they're trying to use? Disparaging is different. Saying, I don't think the current team has done enough for EMS. Yeah, they ask questions about abortion. Yeah, they ask questions about trans athletes. That's not disparaging to you, the individual. If they ask a question about prayer in public schools, is that disparaging to me because I'm a Christian? Oh, they directly came after me. You could see just the main character syndrome. Always about them, always the victim. And then this next line. This is the coup de grace. You ready? This one to me is the absolute chef's kiss of this. You ready? A news organization's job isn't to be neutral or play both sides, contrary to popular belief. It's to hold power accountable when they do things that are objectively wrong. By giving four fascists a platform, They've showed what side they're on, regardless whether the invitation was extended to all candidates or not. In other words, let me say what they're really trying to say here. I should have been the only person allowed on that stage. The mere fact that you invited any of my opponents shows that you've put your thumb on the scale and you're a fascist. Got it? But trust them, they were physically threatened and harassed. They could have been physically assaulted just showing up. You can't make this stuff up. It's not the job of news to be impartial or to moderate a debate. It's the job to say, you are fascist and you may not speak. Only this noble trans person may speak. Oh my goodness, that's the best part. This company knows they have a near complete information monopoly in this area. They know that their support can decide elections in this district. Now, as a candidate, I feel obligated to answer the questions that were asked. You as a voter deserve to know my stance on these issues. Oh, I think you've already given your stance. And I have no reason or need to hide them from you. I will also be commenting on select answers that each candidate did give, mainly to point out how hypocritical and ironic some of them were, and how none of the Trump Party candidates plan to actually support you in your district. You'll find these answers below. Okay, Pat Ritchie, let's look at some of them. Question. We're just looking at the ones that might be interesting. Would you support legislation to further restrict abortion access in Pennsylvania? I would like to preface my answer by saying this question is very poorly worded. It's framed as if the government is doing less than what it actually intends to do. When worded properly, would you be willing to strip more women of their constitutional right to their own body? It makes more sense. Every single candidate from the event said they would create legislation to restrict this fundamental right. I will never support legislation that takes away a woman's right to her own bodily autonomy, ever. I do find it somewhat ironic that 2 of the 3 women in this race are willing to strip themselves of their own rights. Now, notice in that conversation, she is declaring herself a woman whose rights to abortion would be stripped because the 2 candidates, it was 2 male, 2 female candidates that were on the stage. So when he says 2 of the 3, or she says, or they say 2 of the 3, she is implying that she also has abortion rights. Does she have ovaries? Now, Twitch could ban me for refusing to use proper pronouns, which is something that they'll attempt to do. I get that. So I'm trying to use the correct pronouns of she. And you could be the gender of woman. But it is not you that should have a say by your own logic, because the issue cannot affect you if your sex is not female, which this candidate's sex is not female. So in other words, men shouldn't have a say in it because abortion can't affect them, but men that transition to women who also can't have abortions now can have a say. How would you support the growth of Penn West Clarion, that's the local university, amidst enrollment challenges? I would first like to comment on Darlene's answer if tax dollars shouldn't be going to higher education. This is one of the answers there should have been more moderator pushback on. Clarion University is a state system school, and there's been for a very, very long time. This district depends on the university's existence, and it wouldn't exist without the tax dollar. Several ways. And I'm from the camp of go big or go home. Let's address the issue broadly instead of minutely. College is far too expensive to everyday people. The government has a goal that we should all be supporting, making college tuition $1,000 per year for students in state schools whose families make less than $70,000. That's a far cry from $0 per year that it should be, but it's in the right direction. So we should. The problem is, I mean, again, think of this. They're like, hey, the local university's losing money because there's not enough people enrolling. And this candidate's response is, they should charge $0. That's the way to do it. Of course, that means the government will just fund it. Where's the money coming from? It's fascist-esque, I'm assuming. Additionally, we need to focus on eliminating the brain drain from this area. Brain drain is defined by Merriam-Webster's, the Department of Educated or Professional People from one economic sector to better living conditions. What are we doing to make people want to stay in Clarion? Well, people like you are the candidate. Maybe that's a reason they want to leave. Most of the students I talk to, and trust me, I'm on campus a lot. Oh, I'm sure you are on campus a lot. You pray in high schools and elementary schools as well. Have said that there simply aren't jobs for them within their degrees here. Let's fix that by making sure we have degrees relating to open jobs and jobs related to offered degrees. Would you support a statewide sales tax for schools instead of real estate tax? I'm going to borrow the words of one of the Trump Party candidates here and echo what they said. The government doesn't need more money. It needs to know how to spend the money it has effectively. Why do we keep throwing money at our police departments when our children aren't getting the education they deserve? On an unrelated comment, don't you find it ironic that every single person on stage didn't say they'd be against raising your taxes? Isn't that something red voters blame Democratic Party for? You cheered when they all basically said they'd be open to raising your taxes. No, what they said, because I listened to the debate, was that instead of property taxes, they think that statewide sales tax would be a better way to go. They weren't asked whether or not they would raise taxes. They were asked whether or not they thought that property tax or statewide sales tax were the way to go. You cheered when they all basically said they're open to raising your taxes. Pennsylvania has plenty of funding and plenty of funding sources that can be used to better educate children. We could fund better school buildings. We could pay teachers living wages. We can ensure our children get the most up-to-date education without raising the amount you pay in taxes by a cent. All we need to do is spend our money better. So I guess not spend on police at all. Sure, okay. How are you going to have $0 tuition, not raise anyone's taxes? It's bullshit. How would you respond to a person with different viewpoints than your own? I've said this a million times. You want to debate policy? We can debate policy. You want to disrespect my existence? We'll talk another day. Well, it's nice you'd be willing to talk another day. You literally started off talking about this debate that was just literally policy questions by saying that they're fascists that shouldn't have been allowed to be platformed. So I don't think the idea that if you just want to debate policy, sure, we could have a policy. Notice how they define terms. They say, these are the positions that you have to be pro-choice. Anything that's not pro-choice is immoral and refuse to be talked about. You have to be for whatever things I say on trans issues. Any policy disagreement with that means that you're fascist and you shouldn't be allowed in the conversation. Once you agree with all of my policy prescriptions, sure, then we could talk policy. But the precursor is you have to agree with my policy descriptions or else we can't have a discussion. But yeah, I'm willing to work with other people, absolutely. It's surreal. We call ourselves Antifa, therefore we can't be fascist. Skip the school one, I don't care. This is the one I want to get to. I haven't read this answer yet. PA House Bill 972 banned women from women's sports. Would you support expanding this bills? I believe when she changed the words here to the question. It didn't ban women. It banned trans women. So even here on the statement that she's written, she changed the wording of the question because she's going to say that there is no difference between trans women and women. So the real question was, should we ban trans women from women athletics? Here we go. Every single candidate said something to the varying level of disgusting in response on this one. Let's get something straight. Yeah, let's get it straight. This bill is about trans women playing on youth women's teams. Lisa's answer that we shouldn't be allowing men to compete in women's teams. We aren't. Trans women are women. Period. That's not a debate you get to have. I dis-fucking-agree. We'll have that debate because not only are we right on that side of the debate, but you don't get to tell us what we're allowed to talk about. So go fuck yourself, you actual fascist. Sorry to extrapolate there. Next, Clay said that we should be separating all sports by biological gender. You do realize that being trans is biological, right? No, it's not. You could say that it's a biological problem. Evidence shows that it's far more likely a mental problem, but there are issues of biology with some people. However, we should still separate by biological sex. That's absolutely true. Just because you have a ailment or a disease of a biological nature does not mean that the entire system needs to bend to your whim. Much as the fact that I take care of people with autism. Many times they find bright lights and loud noises to be very triggering to them. That doesn't mean that we should not be allowed to have lights or car horns or sounds in public. It's an unfortunate thing when people have things that are illnesses or ailments that sometimes they have to make adjustments. You can't adjust all of society just so your feelings aren't hurt. Just because you say it's biological, that's not always the case. In fact, predominantly it's not the case. And in the rare instances where it might be the case, which I'm assuming with you it wouldn't be, because if we were able to do a brain scan, I bet you'd fail. I bet you wouldn't have the brain of a female. But in the small chance you would, it still doesn't mean that you get to compete in female biology activities. Continuing. Did you pass something higher than 9th grade basic biology? I did. Did you? Darlene stuttered on this and eventually cobbled together the answer of, I do not support any type of cross sports. Don't mutilate your children. You do realize not allowing your children to get HRT is what's mutilating them by forcing them to go through the wrong puberty, right? No, that's not it. The evidence is quite stark that actually you are abusing and mutilating children, and we don't want people that advocate for that to be near any levers of power whatsoever. You do realize, her quoting again, you do realize that not allowing your children to get HRT when they need it's mutilating them, forced to go through the wrong puberty, right? Also, since you care about young women's genitals so much, you'd probably make a good friend of Matt Gaetz or Jim Jordan in the federal house. Or maybe Joe Biden, who likes to sniff little girls. Josh said he'd be in favor of banning it all, that no young girl should lose an opportunity because of it. The question is one of the reasons I didn't attend. How can I know whether the crowd is going to support a trans person? Crowd probably could say we could support a trans person or not. It's irrelevant to the question. You don't get to say because you identify as a certain identity, therefore all policies need to go exactly as you say, or you deem those people to be bigots and say that it's not a safe space for you. That's not how things work. Continuing with their answer. How many trans people were in the audience? Probably not many. It's a very statistically anomalous thing. And because there's not as much social pressure in areas like here as there are in areas like LA, there's not as much of a social contagion, so there's not that many trans people. It's irrelevant anyways. What does the question of how many trans people were in the audience have to do with whether or not this is an issue that should be discussed? Continuing with her, statistically speaking, someone you know is on the LGBT spectrum. That's probably true. It's getting way worse because of the social contagion aspects of it. And yet, someone being bi or gay or lesbian is not the same as someone being trans. And just because I know someone that's bi, gay, lesbian, or trans doesn't mean that it should affect whether or not my policy prescription should be different, nor does it make me an evil person or a fascist for disagreeing with you and your policy prescription of this. Continuing. Instead of banning them from sports, we're not banning them from sports, we're saying that they shouldn't be allowed to play in sports that they have a competitive advantage in. The same way we would say that a 30-year-old baseball player should not be allowed to play with 6-year-olds in t-ball because it would be unfair advantage and it could lead to people getting harmed. They're not banned from sports, they just have certain criteria that they have to play in. Are you also against banning 30-year-olds from sports because you say they shouldn't play with 6-year-olds? Continuing. Instead of banning them from sports, you should be considering why your child feels unsafe to come out to you. Well, there could be many reasons. One, you have no evidence that your child feels unsafe to come out to you. Second, you have no evidence that they're actually gay. Third, if we talk about in the aggregate that children are afraid to come out, some of that is because there could be parents that are bad that would, do horrible things because of it. Most of it would be because parents rightfully would be disappointed. Even though I have no problem with gay people, I would be a liar if I said that I wouldn't be disappointed if my son came out as gay. And I certainly would be incredibly more disappointed if they came out as trans because it's literally an illness. And I don't want my child to be ill. I don't want him to be bipolar. I don't want him to be schizophrenic. And I don't want him to have a mental disorder where he feels he was born in the wrong biological sex and it's in the wrong body. I would still love my child. I would still foster an environment where I think he could come to me with anything. But certainly there would be a lot of people, just like I would be afraid to tell my parents the results of my report card. Not because I was afraid my parents were going to beat me, but because I was afraid I was going to disappoint my parents. Lastly, how do you have any clue that these people were afraid to come out? This is just a narrative of victimhood that you put through, and actually we can see the opposite is occurring, that they have incentive for popularity to come out as gay, bisexual, trans, etc. in school because all of these people surrounding them tell them that that's a cool thing to do, and they're oppressors if they're cis or if they're straight, particularly if they're male. Instead of banning them from sports, you should be considering why they feel unsafe to come out to you. As for my answer to the question, I'd say Josh is right. No young girl should lose an opportunity because of it. No young girl should lose an opportunity because she is trans. Right, but we would define girl as someone who's biologically female, not someone who just magically claims they're a girl. Sport term limits, she says. Clay said we didn't have election integrity, which is something that Trump and many of his cronies have been sued over. He's lucky he didn't specify any voting machine companies. He could say whatever he wants. Remember when Democrats talked specifically about Diebold voting machines and others, about how they weren't safe going into 2006, 2008, etc.? But yes, I'm glad that we're threatening lawsuits, that she would have been right on there. She continues, I would absolutely 100% support term limits for all public officials, even if elected to office. You saw with the incumbent Donna Olander, as nothing was done in addition for 16 years she held office. Should have been removed for a long time because we don't have term limits. She was allowed to run and run. Would you support legalizing recreational marijuana? Every Trump Party candidate said marijuana is a gateway drug. It's true. The moderators should have pushed back on this. Most people who use marijuana do not go on to use other harder drugs. That's not the definition of gateway drug. A second rare instance where Trump Party candidate said something I agree with occurred here. We should 100% have legal distinction as to where impaired line is, as we do with alcohol. My agreement ends there, though. Alcohol kills more people every year than marijuana, according to Stonewall MD. Drunk drivers involved in 25% of motor fatalities. Most marijuana intoxicated drivers show only modest impairments of road tests. If you're going to ban marijuana, you need to ban alcohol too. What will you do to address the fire and EMS issues in the county? Pay our first responders. Every candidate said various things about more volunteers to join the force. Have you figured out if people aren't willing to work for free anymore? Firefighting and being a paramedic are some of the most dangerous jobs a person can pay, and they need to be paid. So we're going to pay them more. We're going to give people free tuition. We're going to pay teachers more, but we're not going to raise any taxes. Cool. How would you resolve the infrastructure issue in this county? Apply grant funding. Make sure our district's less car dependent. We live in rural Pennsylvania, but we're going to make it less car dependent. Increase the bus services so there are connections to other places. Not just 2 bus loops where they aren't even connected. Stop building businesses with giant parking lots in places not accessible by a pedestrian or a bicycle. Looking at you, Walmart. Right. We shouldn't allow businesses to build buildings in the area where they could buy land. How dare you, Walmart, put a building in a place that's not right next to, I guess, Section 8 housing? Stop building, revitalize Main Street in Katanning and Clarion, and you'll have a thriving community that everyone, not just those rich enough to own cars, can be part of. Well, I assume under your utopia, no one will be rich enough to own a car. I will also take a moment to generally respond to closing comments. 4 candidates that got endorsements varying from the NRA, Pro-Life Federation, Gun Owners, Life Pack, Trump's campaign, all varying degrees unfit for office, where protecting your rights to life, liberty, well, you already said you're not for the right to life, you're pro-abortion, and pursuit of happiness will be on the ballot this year. Final comment in one of the candidates' remarks. One law passes, another freedom lost. This was said by a candidate willing to take away trans rights, women's rights, and more. No, they're willing to protect babies' rights and willing to protect women's rights. That's what they were doing. Trans rights are bullshit. Just because you hear voices in your head doesn't mean the rest of us should have to agree that they exist. Choose wisely this year, voters. This is an election between right and wrong, and only the 5 candidates going to support you. With love, Kat Ritchie. P.S. Is anyone from Explore Clarion reading this? Stop misgendering me on your website. My pronouns are listed on Facebook pages and on my own website, which you didn't claim to look at. P.P.S. If you're part of any other news organization, you're welcome to run this statement in its entirety in your publication or online media. Thanks so much, Pat. Chose to do so. Now, my wife, when she read this, you know what she said? Now, you have to understand this. My wife is not as conservative as me. I don't even call myself a conservative first and foremost. I am conservative, but I'm also libertarian adjacent, and I'm also a populist. My wife looked at me and said, you know, I feel bad for any Democrat in this district, that's the choice they've been given. Which is true. Because I know Democrats around here, and most of them aren't the insane people. A lot of the Democrats around here are like lifelong union people. I'm in the Farmers Union. I'm a Democrat. I like Bill Clinton. And so my wife's right, but chickens home roost. There you go. Yeah, I mean, the entire, I don't know. I don't even know what's, yes, Tigadu. Being gay and being trans aren't remotely similar. Being sexually attracted to a consenting adult who happens to share the same biological sex as you is a completely different situation than thinking you're literally in the wrong biological body. 2 completely different things. I would be a little more judicious if I have a written response. I run as a Democrat. I actually, at one point in my life, I ran as a libertarian, I think in 2014. And I considered running for a local office as a Democrat. And basically just being anti-war. trying to make the case of Democrats like, I'm going to literally support every right-wing position that you hate, except one. I'm against all this war funding. You claim to be against that, so at least with me you'll get that, and you have a chance to win. You put up Kat Ritchie, what do you think your chances are? So I'd run, and if I won as a Democrat, go there and vote with Republicans on 95% of issues, except the ones that I thought they were shit on. Right, that was in the past, Face, right. I thought you all would enjoy that. I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I want to see. Now, one of those candidates actually... I talked to a lot about their congressional run. And Clay Kennemuth's his name, and I hope he wins. But it's going to be tough because, unfortunately, for Clay, a lot of these people have been more attached to politics than him. So let's see here. We are the 63rd district. Here you go. Wondering how Kat Ritchie's doing so far tonight? Who we just read. 1,075 votes for Kat Ritchie. Yay! That's the people that just voted Democrat. Run on taxing weed. Let's see how my boy Clay's doing. Oh, for crying out. Huh? This is so confusing. Now, my wife wrote me in on a couple things which I was unaware of. There are, look, some of these things. There's just 3 write-ins. I hope I don't win something. And I happened to a friend of mine, for real. Someone wrote him in for something. And they called him and they were like, oh yeah, I don't want that. Like, no, I'm good. Where is it? How did I miss this? A lot of like delegates and all that good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like my guy's not going to win. I don't know what percentage of the votes. It's 17% they're saying. I guess. You never know. But looks like Josh Bashline is currently winning. And the guy likes Clay Kennemuth. He's about 50% of his votes. Interesting. Trump fell asleep in court and shit his pants. Good, man. People were wasting my time. I'd probably shit myself, too. Yeah, you know, maybe I will run for school board once Hank's a little older. And we're going to send him to Catholic school. Private school here that'll go until he's in 7th grade. then he'll probably go to the local school here unless I decide to do something else by then. But interesting. Sort of a bummer though. All the county committee reps, no one was on the ballot, it's just write-ins. Well, there we go. There's the lady who's on the ballot. She's winning. She's beating the write-ins. Ooh, Limestone, heated race. 18 people voted for one candidate, 18 for the other. Dang. Nice. What's wrong with public school? Neil Armstrong lied about the moon. About to order brisket. There you go. Now we're talking. All right. Anything else people want to talk about? We have to read the... Oh, no. My wife wrote me in for Republican County Washington Committee Commissioner. Let's see what the... Oh, shoot. Oh, no! There's one vote! Ah! Oh, man. I might be winning an election for Washington. Oh, and you get to vote for 2! So I'm definitely in. I did see he was on Tim Kaz. Yeah, my wife wrote me in as a joke when she went to go vote. I do not want to be county whatever. No, thank you. Yeah, we did talk about the Jack Smith thing a little. Thank you, Pentuple, for the raid. Really appreciate it. Hope everything's going well for you, man. Voted today here in Pennsylvania, and apparently my wife wrote me in for, like, county commissioner or county committee, and according to the the early results, there's one write-in candidate. That's it. No one ran, and you pick 2, and there's 1 vote submitted, which is probably me. All right, Sadie, how you doing? Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate any raid. 2 people, 2,000, doesn't matter. Thank you for thinking of me. I really appreciate it. I don't know if it pays anything. I'd turn it down. I don't have enough free time, man. I don't have any time. What am I going to do? Send some county... I don't know. Maybe I'll go in and just... Honest to goodness, I think about this a lot now. So for those that didn't know, I ran for Congress in a special election in 2019. Not state, but federal Congress. And I would have followed decorum. I would have, right? Thank you so much, Grumpelstiltskin, for the sub on Kick. I really appreciate it. Super chat drive? Yeah, why not? I'll take your money. Fix the... Part of me, like, I know if I went in, I would contain myself. But tell me that it wouldn't be interesting, like, to do what George Santos did, but more poignantly and not in a corrupt way, less gay. Just to go in and be like, yeah, fuck you all. I don't give a fuck about all. You're all pathetic. None of you Republican Democrats, you all suck. There's a handful of you that maybe give a shit. The rest of you are terrible. I'm tired of this farce, pretending like you represent the people in your district, and I'm tired of you demanding respect from the rest of us. So go fuck yourself. That's what I'm gonna say. Of course I'd tell my chat if people smelled. Kick denied payment just on your channel from the time when you monetized until right now. Really? It's crazy. Really weird. Huh. Yeah, it should have been working. I don't think I made any changes. I saw the guy that lit himself on fire. Mess. Don't light yourself on fire. There's a hot take. Don't light yourself on fire. There's a lot of, listen, God, I hate that I have to do this. I sound like it's cliched and it's stupid. I talk about, let's assume that most of you watching right now are Republican voters, right? People like Janice probably aren't. That's fine. But for those that are Republican voters, your party hates you. They absolutely hate you. They absolutely despise. They literally hate you. Paul Ryan hates you. John Boehner hates you. Mitch McConnell hates you. Why? Because you want a government whose priorities are dealing with you and other constituents like you. And you don't give a shit about Ukraine that much. And you don't give a shit about Israel that much. You care about the border. About the fact you can't afford groceries. Thank you so much, Jim Bob Shoulders. $2 super chat. Donate to Rob now. Non-negotiable. In caps. You can't argue with that. So it is probably a cold take, Rollins. They don't care about you. They're going to sabotage Trump. They will sabotage anyone who would attempt, who even hypothetically could possibly even think about doing something to take them out of power. In other words, the actual things that need fixed, that our representatives are ran by people that don't care about you. Anyone who would be elected and have a chance to stop that and to cut into that will be sabotaged by those very leaders. Which means that the people that are elected either are in on the game or the people running things don't think they're capable of doing anything meaningful. So if Trump gets elected, he'll either be sabotaged or they've negotiated with him that he won't do anything meaningful. Now Janice says vote blue no matter who. I don't know what Janice's situation is in life. That's fine. You could keep lamenting as you're in inner city Detroit and Chicago. What's going on? We keep voting Democrat. Why is nothing better for the people in these inner city communities? You have your own set of problems, fine. They don't care about you either. They don't. It's just the difference is because the Democratic Party is the face of the current establishment and because they've been able to dupe so many of the people on their side of things so well that Orange Man bad and that'll solve everything, that they're perfectly fine with it. There's no infighting. The Democrats are really good at marching in lockstep. And they also don't give a shit about their constituents, but that's okay because their constituents hate the Orange Man. And so in reality, I guess they kind of are doing what their constituents want. I mean, their constituents were like, we'd like food and to be able to afford a house. And they're like, sorry, I can't give you that. Best we could do is go after Orange Man. And they're like, all right, we'll take it. Fuck that Orange Man. So, okay. Janice Keyline wants to know who you voted for in the 2016-20 primary. Well, Janice, that's exactly what I was saying. I was explaining how things aren't much better in the red. That's exactly what I was saying. You said vote blue no matter who, and I was saying, well, that doesn't seem to help. Anyways. Oh, Todd Sullivan, thank you so much for the $10. I'm sorry, I almost missed it. Thank you. Now, the corruption's gotten worse, not better. Your voice matters less, not more. It's more upfront, the corruption. They'll use every institution to silence people that they view as outside the establishment orthodoxy, whether it be a alleged right-winger like Donald Trump or a left-winger like RFK. Doesn't matter. They're going to keep outsiders out as much as possible because they're afraid that outsiders might actually care more about themselves, which isn't necessarily a good thing, or their constituents, which is a very bad thing. Thank you, Jim Bob. You pay to repair my broken chair. I appreciate it. So your guy's not going to win. If he does win, he's not going to change anything. Sucks, right? Don't light yourself on fire. I hate having to repeat this, but I feel like I do have an obligation, no matter how many people are listening to me, whether it be one person or 100 or 1,000. Just because we talk about depressing things that I'm completely serious about. Absolutely, completely serious. Nothing that I talk about is worth harming yourself or your family. Nothing. It's not worth engaging in acts of violence. It's not. I am 100% sincere when I say that. Do what's best for you in your life. You're the ultimate judge. Well, God's the ultimate judge of your morality. But even if you don't believe that, or even if you do, you're also a judge. You know if you're doing right or wrong. You know if you're trying. Work to improve yourself, improve your family, improve your loved ones, improve your community. That stuff's all more important. Right, start a podcast. Right, tell other people. But it's just, I don't get it. I don't know. I've always been that sort of person, though. Like, I could argue with a friend, yelling and screaming, and then the next moment share a beer with them. I've never had a problem separating that sort of stuff. Find a really, it's not to get too personal, but one of the things I do in my work is I deal with people with developmental disabilities that are adults. And one of the things I notice is you'll have what's called behaviors, right? So a behavior could range for a lot of things. A behavior could be an elopement, which is someone you're taking care of runs away and you can't find them. And it may be someone that needs serious assistance. So, for example, someone who's incapable of talking to a member of the community about medications that they need to take or disabilities that they have. If they disappear into a city, they run away from the house and you can't find them. That's a real danger. Something really bad could happen, right? Or you might see acts of aggression, property destruction. You might get hit, an act of violence directed towards you. You might get screaming, name calling. And there's other even things that are sort of bodily things, self-harm. I don't know. I don't know how gross people want to get. Fecal smears. And people laugh at that and they're like, oh, fecal smear. Like, one of the reasons people do fecal smears where they wipe feces on themselves or on their property is because they've been sexually assaulted. And so they learned from a young age when they were abused that if they made themselves as unappealing as possible that they wouldn't be assaulted. It's horrible. So when you have to deal with something like clean something like that up, it sucks. I'm never gonna say it's a fun thing to do. It's clearly not. But if you look at it in that perspective, like, yeah, But anyways, all of those behaviors, like we're taught that they're communications. It's all a form of communication, and our job is to steer in a more healthy form. But even being trained with that, one of the things I noticed is most of the people in this line of work make what I think is a good intentioned mistake of basically implying to the people we work for, getting angry is a bad thing. You shouldn't get angry. And that's nonsensical. Getting angry is completely reasonable and healthy. It is an absolute normal human emotion. It is not something to avoid. It's not. How to deal with that anger is a different question. And so I always try to make sure at work when I say, someone will say, I'm sorry. I'm like, you don't have to be sorry for being angry. Of course not. You don't. But let's talk about ways we can deal with the anger in a better, in the best possible way. One of the things is, believe it or not, another mistake people make is, let's say you're really pissed off. Like Key Lime Platypus, for whatever reasons, super pissed off. And I sit down and I'm like, now Key Lime, let's talk about why are you so mad? What's going on? What are you so mad? Key Lime's probably going to be like, dude, let me alone. I'm just pissed. Get away from me. But again, in this line of work, everyone's like, I got to fix every problem. I got to find out what's going on. Sometimes they just want you to go away. Give them some privacy. Give them some alone time. It's okay to be angry. They're angry. Okay. Let me know when you want to talk about it. Sometimes that's all, just like me in my life. Sometimes I get pissed. I just need to walk somewhere for 20 minutes. I'm like, okay. So for me, I'm acutely aware when I say stuff that could depress people or anger people in here. It's like, listen, I know it sounds cliche and it sounds stupid and I don't want to have to say it, but it's like, it's okay to be angry about this stuff. But what do you do with it? Well, there's a lot of things politically you could do. You could run for local office. You could inform people of the things that we talk about here. Educate yourself more. Register people to vote. There's a ton of things you could do politically. There's a ton of things you could do culturally. But the most important things are things you could do in your personal life, for your family, for yourself. It is not worth throwing your life away. It's not. And, the gambit of stupidity ranges from committing acts of violence on other people because of it. It's not worth that. It's not morally justified. Harming, breaking the law in significant ways is not worth that. It's not. You're going to ruin your life because you're pissed off about something. It's not worth it. It's not going to make the problem better. Or harming yourself. And the ultimate form of that is, now we've seen 2 people in the last month or month and a half light themselves on fire. And for what? What did they accomplish? It will never accomplish what you think it would. You're going to be a meme. It's just dumb. So, I implore you. I know my audience is well-grounded. I do. I know my audience is well-grounded, but don't ever fall down that rabbit. It's funny because, the other day I did Angry Rob stream where I was bald, didn't have a hat on. That stream I feel fine. I leave and hang out with my family. It's okay. A lot of mental illness. Have I ever bench pressed? If I did, what's my max? When I played football in high school, I bench pressed. Back then, my max was, I think, 2. I don't know that I ever maxed. I think I did a rep of 235, 240, around that area. But I haven't lifted since high school, which is a shame. Once I get my back in order here, I'm going to actually, my plan is to do more. I definitely want to do calisthenic type stuff, aerobic exercise, stretching and stuff like that. And then once I'm doing that and I'm comfortable with that, I definitely want to do a little bit of lifting at the gym. Though there's a problem with the local gym here. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. The local gym here has a lot of affairs that start in it. Yeah, I do me some DDP yoga. Yeah, that's what I do. I like it. Yeah, there's a lot of people I know that that ended up in some torrid relationships at the local. Yeah, literally affairs, sexual trysts. I guess it's good for the cardio, right? I don't know. So I always tell my wife, I'm like, well, I would go to the gym, but you don't want me hooking up with someone, right? She's not persuaded by that argument. But yeah, I call it affectionately the orgy gym. But I don't know, is that something you would advertise if you're a gym? Hey, just saying, who wants to run on a treadmill for 40 minutes? We have an alternative. Yeah, there's some personal trainers. And yeah, Key Lime wants the gym. Thoughts on the votes leaving Arizona? The Coyotes. Yeah, it's a bummer, man. Anytime you see a team leave like that. And, ultimately, I feel like, unfortunately, that team was bad most of its time there. But I think you've proven that I was talking to my friend about this the other day. For me, there's proof that hockey could work in the South. Tampa Bay, Florida. I don't think Arizona is a market that, that just the people there wouldn't be interested. Sadly, I think when there were good teams, I don't know what the attendance was. How was the attendance when, Coyotes were making the playoffs? Was it pretty good? I don't know. But it sucks, man. I remember when the Penguins were going to leave Pittsburgh, and it sucked. Life goes on, Back then, when I was a kid, young, a teenager, I was like, oh my goodness, the Penguins are going to leave. And Mario came in and saved it, and yeah, okay, you're happy because you live in Utah. Yeah. A team, right? You got the Jazz, now you got the... Do they know what they're going to call them yet? Yeah, Alex, yeah, the old igloo. I didn't see what. Yeah, there you go, Wally. Yeah. Will the Flyers make the playoffs next year? Can Gritty lead the Flyers? I don't know. To hell with the Flyers. You know, I think hockey to me is like baseball's my favorite sport, which is ironic because of the three teams I like, the Penguins, the Steelers, and the Pirates. The Pirates are, in my lifetime, objectively are the worst of those three. Like, Penguins have been dominant at times, Steelers have been dominant at times. Both have won championships, and then you had the Pirates. But I love baseball. I just do. I'm not as big into sports as I used to be, so don't get me wrong. But baseball's my favorite sport to watch. Maybe to play too. But, you know, when it comes to individual characters, I know most people would probably look to football, like Tom Brady, or, you know, as a Steeler, like, we got Jerome Bettis, we got Troy Polamalu, we got TJ Watt, you know, and then it's like, oh, we're rivals with the Ravens, they got Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, you know, Ed Reed, you know, and like that. But for me, when it came to individual characters and rivalries, it was always about hockey. And so, like, for me, the players that I hate are like Scott Hartnell, which most people are like, who? That red-haired effing clown from the Flyers when we used to play them in the playoffs all the time. Or Wayne Simmons. And it's funny because I feel like Penguins fans and Flyers fans, because I had friends that were Flyers fans, like, they're like character play. It's not like, you know, Giroux, who was really good for the Flyers. Like, yeah, screw Giroux. And if you're a Flyers fan, like Crosby. But it was all these, like, secondary cast people that you learn to hate, you know? So I imagine, like, Flyers fans hating, like, Pascal Dupuis or, you know, Chris Kunitz. Oh, we'll see. No, maybe the Flyers fans aren't as cool. They just hate Mario and Crosby. Yeah. Well, I would hate them, too, if I was a Flyers fan, and the best person I had to show for the last 20 years was Claude Giroux with his tight jeans at the discotheque party. Mm-hmm. No, grit, please. Yeah, George LaRocque, man. I love George LaRocque. Rempe seems to be a character of that era of hockey, like the fighting man. Yeah, McDavid's brutal. I mean, will he have the longevity of someone like Crosby? We'll see, but set a fitness goal. Well, all right. How about this? I'm not going to set a fitness goal until my back's in order. Once my back's in order, my plan is, once I officially start, within a 6-month period, I would like to be down to 220 pounds. Currently, I weigh probably about 266, so that would be a loss of 46 pounds in 6 months. And I think that's doable. But I have to get to a doctor and get my back looked at because I'm afraid I'll start exercising or something and make it worse. And it hurts a lot. Like, my back is really killing me. So I'm hoping I don't need... I'm hoping it's just a, give it time type thing. There's a solid argument to be had that the Penguins should trade Crosby and leave him have one more chance for a team that might have a chance to win a cup, because I don't see it with the Penguins anytime in the near future. So, did I break my back? Yeah. What's the phrase? Blew my back out. Is that that I didn't know was it was such a boomer. Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wishes that politics actually gave a shit and I wouldn't have to focus on it, or that other people did it. And there are people that do it, but there's not a lot that do it in ways that I'm impressed with. So I end up talking about, I'd love to sit here and talk about the Penguins and the Pirates. What should we tell our congressman? Where to begin? Fuck you. I told him in 2019 when I ran against him and I got to speak at the convention. I gave a 2-minute speech. Maybe it's 5 minutes. 5-minute speech. Basically, I just started telling a bunch of stories about how I'm the shittiest blue-collar person in the world. I can't hunt for shit. I can't change a tire. I'm terrible. And everyone was laughing. And I said, but one of the things I could do is speak. And I was a good debater, I was a good speaker, and I was interested and lucky enough to have the time and the ability to look into politics. And I just want to let these people know that this is not some job that they're guaranteed for. That they go to Washington and get our tax dollars and it's their career. We're tired of it. We're tired of them coming back and telling us, we care about you. We care about what you believe in. We're voicing our opinions. We're voting for you, for the opinions you voice. And then stabbing us in the back as soon as you get to Washington. And if you don't ship up, then people like me are coming for your jobs because we could do it better. We don't want to. I don't want to be in Congress. People like me don't want to be in Congress. But if you leave us no choice, then we will do it. And I got a standing ovation. HGH, maybe. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. And I don't want any pain pills, so I've been taking aspirin. It's back aspirin, so it has caffeine in it. Yeah, they all clapped, and all these politicians, oh, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to have you on our team. Yeah, I'll be in your town here in like a couple months at the parade. Why don't we sit down and have coffee and blah, 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 blah. How many you think ever got in touch with me? Wait your turn, I was told. Wait your turn. How many votes did I get? Believe it or not. 3? 4? That's how many votes I got. It was a special election, though. There were only 212 conferees that were voting. It was a conferee process. So there were 212 conferees out of 12 counties. Each county, based on the percentage of people that voted in the Republicans that voted in the 2018 election, got a percentage of conferees. The problem was almost each county picked a conferee. Picked a candidate. I technically wasn't in the district that I was running for because that district was redistricted like 2 or 3 years before that. So picture this, like here's Pennsylvania, right? And I'm like somewhere in here in the center, and I'm like over here with this group, and then they redistrict, and now I'm over here with this group. But I didn't move. I'm in the same place, was in that district my whole life, so I decided to run. And the problem I had was I wasn't even invited to most of the events because I was a carpetbagger, because I wasn't from the area, was what they said. Which is fine. That's their right. And what I came to find out later was most of the counties picked their conferees based on who would vote for the candidate from their county. So, for example, if you're from Lycoming County and you're running, you say, I want these 7 conferees because they'll vote for me, which they did. So the way the process worked, there were 24 of us that ran, and the top 10 got to move on to the next round. Then they removed anyone who didn't get at least 10% or something like that. So my only hope was make it to that second round and then be enough people's second choice that hopefully then they would vote for me because their guy was out. It didn't work that way, though. So I made it to the second round and then was eliminated in the second round. But I think I had the top amount of votes for someone that wasn't one of those counties' candidates. And if you were in the top 10, you got to speak, which was my ultimate goal. I wanted to speak there. I knew that I didn't have much of a chance to win. And the process was there was a crazy scandal that broke out. So the guy that was in first place that everyone thought would win, we were told that there's this process that we were all going to sit there, and then we did the vote, and then the top 10 of us, I think there was an 11. I think there was a tie for 10th and 11th, so there were 11 people that moved forward, if I remember. We all sat there, and we were given an order that we would get to speak. And, okay, that's what we were told. And then all of a sudden, this guy that was the front runner, they were like, but he's going to say some words first. And so we're like, okay, that seems unfair. Why does this person get special treatment? And the reason they got special treatment was they announced that they were withdrawing. And the reason they were withdrawing was because their biological but estranged son had apparently reached out to this candidate, did not like whatever response they got. So then decided to go to local media to say that that candidate beat the shit out of him and his mom, including one time pistol whipping the mother, was a terrible father in a litany of ways, was just this horrible scumbag that abused his family, etc., etc. And so I didn't know. I'm just some. What do I know? Any connection to that? I didn't hear about it until I'm there that morning. And so this guy got up and said, "I'm dropping out. These attacks are totally unfounded. Blah 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 blah. I'm leaving." So then there's this big hole because that guy was the front runner. He was expected to get like 30 to 40% of the vote first round because he came from the biggest county. So then he's gone. And so it's like, uh-oh. And I think that's where my votes came from, that guy's county. Yes, I was told routinely, Janice, to wait my turn. In fact, here's more to the story. So back in 2016, 17, around that time, I was going to the local county Republican meetings. It was even before 16 because it was before the election. I think in 2012 or 14, I considered a run for local office as a libertarian, but I never did anything with it because it was too hard and I didn't have any help. So then I started going to Republican meetings, was in good standing with them, volunteered to help them with stuff. Everybody seemed to like me and my wife there. All good. I called my representative's office at one point. His name is Glenn Thompson. Glenn Thompson is the most senior Republican, at this point, the most senior Republican representative in the state of Pennsylvania. So he's well liked. He's the elder statesman of Republicans here in Pennsylvania. And I called his office and got to talk to a member of his team and said, I would like to run for this seat at some point, not anytime soon, but I was wondering how long does Glenn plan on keeping the office and running for the office? I'm not sure when I would be ready to run, but I'd like to talk to him about some ideas and blah, 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 blah. Preferably what I've liked was for him to say like, oh, I'm only going to run one more term or whatever. But yeah, I'd love to hear your ideas and maybe give you some recommendations, etc., etc. That's not how they took it. They took it as, how dare I challenge their guy? So, I happen to know one of the people that was on like the committee of the Republican board in Clarion. I had to stop going to Republican meetings because my work changed and their meetings are always on Tuesday nights and I work every Tuesday night. So I had to stop going, but I still volunteered for Trump's campaign and did this, that, and the other and tried to help Republicans out. And this, I had people tell me like, hey, you shouldn't run in a primary. Okay. So then there was this special election. I was like, okay, then I'll run for that. That's not stepping on anyone's toes. It's not a primary. I'm not primarying a sitting congressman. So I ran for that, and part of what I wanted to do was to show the county Republicans in these new counties where I was running that I was in good standing with the local county Republicans. And so I reached out to this gentleman that I knew in my personal life that was a member of the committee. I said, hey, could you get me just a letter for them saying I used to come to the meetings and I was, well liked? And he was like, no, I can't do that. And I was like, no, why not? And basically he told me, they're pissed at you because you said you would run against Glenn Thompson. So when I involve in politics in the real world right now, I literally don't work with the Republicans that are like 3 minutes away from me. I don't deal with them. I drive to like Harrisburg or Williamsport. So I drive like 2-3 hours away. Those are the Republicans I deal with in person. So, was basically told to wait my turn and was basically blackballed because I suggested that I might run for office at one point. But they're geniuses. They're killing it here in Pennsylvania. Killing it. They lost a stroke victim in John Fetterman. Oh, Dr. Oz was the greatest, though. Just listen to them. No, Nate G, I don't know about the new salary overtime ruling. I didn't hear about that. So, yeah, that's how that went down. Kind of silly. Alright, let's find someone to raid. It's 10:15. So hopefully I will be streaming tomorrow night. Like I said, I don't know what time. It might be a little later. Depends on what time I get home from work. Yeah. Looks like my man still hasn't gained any ground. He's in third place for the local office here, so. Yeah, Scott Pressler is doing good work in Pennsylvania. Hopefully I'll get to meet up with him here soon. Let's find someone to raid. There's EOD on. Let's raid him. My debate partner Thursday. Woohoo! Should be good. I was never offered any money not to run. I've never been paid one dime for anything politically related. Even when I ran for office, I refused to take any donations. So the only thing that I've ever been paid for remotely tangentially involving politics is literally streaming. That's it. And people give me a super chat or subscribe. That's it. I've never received one dime for political consulting. I've never received one dime for any job I did helping people write speeches. Never one dime. Never. Didn't get paid by some PAC. Never did that. So, alrighty. Thank you all. I should be on here tomorrow night. Please, if you want to do me a favor, 2 things you could do. 1, be checking out my YouTube channel, Twitter, etc. We're trying to put clips of these live streams up in like 5 minutes. Check those clips out every day around noon. And then if I put a second one up, it'll be at 5 p.m. Share those with people if you want. It's easier than just this. And then if you want to help in ways beyond that, when you go to this YouTube video afterwards, if there's a timestamp that you would like to see clipped out, just put that in the comment section. Hey, section 9:30 till 11:30, whatever. That would be nice. So, thank you so much. Enjoy this rate of VOD. I'll talk to you all tomorrow night. As always, have a good one.